Monday afternoon. It is a Super Bowl week edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dorzinski, Dan Lucero here with you for the next 3 hours, talking all things Super Bowl 57. Got some college basketball to get to, some more Super Bowl. Look ahead to Big Monday, more Super Bowl, all coming up over the next 3 hours here on 580 Sports Talk. Thank you for being a part of the program as well. As always, you can let us know your thoughts on anything we are talking about on the Big O Tires text line. That number, as always, 785-272-9429. And you can also comment on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is our YouTube channel. Head over to YouTube. You can go watch us live on camera right now, hanging out with you until 6 o'clock today. As I just alluded to, we have so much to get to over the course of the next 3 hours. It is officially the start of Super Bowl week. Super Bowl opening night is tonight, in fact, and I'm sure we'll get plenty of fun quotes and goofiness. I'm sure we're going to get all sorts of Kelsey shenanigans. By the way, did you see who their special guest was on the most recent episode of New Heights?
It was mom and dad, wasn't it?
It was mom and dad. They're trying to get their mom to do the coin toss at the Super Bowl, which I'm not going to lie, that would be super fun.
It would.
That would be awesome.
It would.
I doubt the NFL will do it, but it would be awesome. So we'll talk about the start of Super Bowl week. Matt Verderame is going to join us coming up later on this hour for our weekly chat about all things NFL. We will get to some college hoops. KU plays tonight against Texas. Huge game for Big Monday. By the way, do you know how many times Bill Self has lost a home Big Monday game?
That'd be 0.
0. Never. Not even once. In 35 tries. And Roy Williams, that bum, was only 11-1.
Oh,
home
geez.
Big Monday. Total scrub.
One loss. Get him out of here. Yeah.
It is absolutely unbelievable how much KU wins on Big Monday. But this is going to be a huge test. If Texas wins, it's over for KU's hopes of getting a share of the Big 12 title. I'm willing to say that. They'll be 3 games back with, 8 to go, 7 to go? It ain't going to happen. So KU's got to win tonight. We'll preview that game. We'll also talk about the games for this weekend. KU got thrashed by Iowa State. K-State, so frustrating. They were right there. They had chances. Could not get it done against that aforementioned Texas team. So we will recap that game as well. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We've got What Is Wrong With You, recapping the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All of that is coming up over the course of the next 3 hours. And again, hit us up on the Big O Tires text line with your thoughts on anything we're talking about today, 785-272-9429. And the YouTube comment section is open as well. Our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Mark chiming in on YouTube. Shout out to Mark. Everybody who's watching or listening along, appreciate you guys. Mark says hopefully next Monday will be a Super Bowl Monday, a Super Monday victory. Go Chiefs. I agree. Hopefully we will have one more victory Monday for this NFL season. It is Super Bowl week, though. It is fun. We got a little Chiefs news, which we'll get to here in just a few minutes. It's probably nothing major, but it's something. It is worth bringing up. After a week of just talk with no news at all, it's kind of nice to have a little bit of something leading up to the game. And, of course, again, we'll get more tonight as it is opening night. Formerly, it was just known as Media Day, I believe. They just called it Super Bowl Media Day.
Yeah, that's how I remember it.
It used to be way more chaotic than it is now. There's that famous clip, I want to say it was from Super Bowl 42 when the Giants beat the Patriots the first time, when the woman, I don't remember which South American nation she was from, but she asked Tom Brady to marry her while he was at the podium. I believe that was that Super Bowl.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it used to be crazy. It's a little more toned down these days. So more news will come out tonight, but this week is so special because there's so many storylines to get to with this matchup in particular. It's the 2 best teams in the NFL. It's 1 seed versus 1 seed. It is the first meeting, or it will be the first Super Bowl, I should say, in which the number 1 seed in a respective conference wins since 2017, since the last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl 52. Isn't that weird?
That is.
No, 1 seed hasn't won since then. That's kind of crazy in all reality. So you've got that. You've got the brother versus brother thing. You've got quarterback on the rise in Jalen Hurts versus the best quarterback in the NFL and one of the best of all time already in Patrick Mahomes. You've got Andy Reid's story. I mean, you've got all these stories from all over the place. The buildup is awesome. You're going to see so many cool human interest stories about players, about the place, about all this. probably a cool couple shots of the graveyard of various ligaments and bones that have been, cast off to the nether realm on the turf at State Farm Stadium down in Glendale. What's your favorite part about Super Bowl week? Whether it's this week or it's the Super Bowl week in general, what is your favorite part of this build up to the Super Bowl?
I think my favorite part, and I'm sure Chiefs fans are experiencing this, you and I root for different teams, have emotional attachments to different teams, but the best part when it's your team, whether it's the team you cover, the team that's local, or the team that you love, the best part is that team being the center of the sports universe for 2 weeks. Like, there is nothing more important right now.
Nothing.
In sports. There is no story more important. There are no players more important. There are no coaches more important. There are no narratives more important than the ones surrounding the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And that is so rewarding. And I'm sure if you're a Chiefs fan, you feel what I'm saying right now. The fact that the spotlight is on you. The spotlight is on your team, the rest of the world, because the Super Bowl, more than any other sporting event on our calendar, is one that the entire world or the entire country really dials in on. Maybe the entire world is a bit of a stretch, but the entire country dials in on this game. It's the Super Bowl. Even if you don't care a lick about the NFL on a week in, week out basis, it's the Super Bowl, and you know who's playing in it. You know who the important players are, and everybody knows, whether you're a fan of the teams or you're living under a rock somewhere. The Chiefs are the center of the universe, and the Eagles are the center of the universe. And you get to know these players, you get to know these teams, you get to celebrate the talents and the personalities and the careers on display. That is, to me, the best part of Super Bowl week, and it's extra special, again, when it's a team that you happen to have an interest in.
This game is going to do insane ratings, by the way. I mean, relative to other Super Bowls. The Super Bowl, from now until we hit a point where football actually loses popularity at some point, if that ever happens, it will always be the most viewed sporting event, most viewed television event in the world, at least in the United States. But relative to even other Super Bowls, this one is going to do insane numbers. Whatever the one did last year, the Rams are in LA. That's something. And they had some star power. Joe Burrow was a star on the rise, but I think his star is bigger after last year's Super Bowl than it was going into it.
No, I think you're right.
Even with his college football bona fides. This features a team in a truly humongous media market in Philadelphia with a rabid fan base and a lot of fans in other East Coast cities that might watch this game solely to root against the Eagles. They might even hate the Chiefs, but they hate the Eagles more. Okay? That's why a lot of people are going to watch this game. And, I mean, this is just the fact of watching the NFL and the fact of the NFL's existence. If you've got a superstar quarterback, a true superstar quarterback, everyone is going to watch. Everyone wants to see that guy. And that guy is Patrick Mahomes. Jalen Hurts, on the rise. I think it is fair to say he is a star on the rise. And if the Eagles keep winning after this year, and certainly if they win the Super Bowl this year, oh yeah, that even higher. The sky is the limit for what his star could be. Patrick Mahomes is that guy. All of those years of, oh my God, I'm so sick of Tom Brady. Oh my God, another Patriots Super Bowl. So bored of this. Most of America did not agree with that. All of those Patriots Super Bowls, all those Brady appearances, they all did even for Super Bowl standards, huge numbers. People want to see stars, especially if you are a casual fan. You want to see Patrick Mahomes. Because you probably don't know. If you are a true football casual, and you and I are not that. If you are a regular listener to 580 Sports Talk, you are not that. You are far above that. But average Joe,
it's the grandma test, right?
It is,
like
yeah.
your grandma who doesn't follow sports, couldn't care less about sports. Do they know who Tom Brady is? Yeah, they do. They know exactly who Tom Brady is. And Patrick Mahomes is the next generation of player that passes the grandma test, so to speak. Like, people know who he is. He is that kind of a star.
Thank you for landing the plane for me. That was taking way too long. I appreciate that. But no, it's true, though. That's what people want to tune in for. And the beauty of this game is that even if you are super football guy and you want to talk about the tape and I want to talk about ball and all that, there's still this communal feeling around we all get to talk about Patrick Mahomes this week. We all get to talk about weird drunk 20-somethings in Philadelphia yelling "Go Birds" at everybody who they walk past. Like, we all get to enjoy all of this. And it's the last time we get to do that because the season is over. And unless you are like me and you're going to get way too into the XFL the week after the Super Bowl, this is it. This is it until preseason games start. And for most people, this is it until the regular season starts on September 12th or whatever it will be next year. So there's just sort of this communal feeling about the Super Bowl that I don't really have. Like, there's no TV show that the whole world is watching, like when MASH was on, right?
Like Seinfeld or Cheers. Like,
right.
The shows aren't doing those kinds of numbers anymore. Even
shows of recent, like Breaking Bad's finale or Game of Thrones or something like that, they were wildly popular. They paled in comparison to things 20, 30 years ago. There's other stuff.
82 of the top 100 rated television broadcasts of 2022 were football games. Like, this is our communal shared experience as Americans, is the National Football League. For better and for worse, for everything that says about us and who we are, for better or for worse, this is our shared experience. This is the thing that we all kind of come together and do to the extent that we all can be defined. And the Super Bowl is the biggest game in that experience, and it is the one that brings together the casuals and the diehards. And when it's your team, the team you cover, the team that's nearby, or the team that you love playing in it, it makes it all the more special.
I read something once that only 1 in 6 people would say that they genuinely like and enjoy sports, and that there's another portion of people that say, I watch them because I feel like I have to, or I talk about them because I feel like I have to. Think, the 2/3 of Americans who aren't watching the Super Bowl, what are you doing? What are you doing on that day? What is on? No TV networks airing anything because they don't want to counter program the Super Bowl.
That's when
the whole world stops for it.
That's when they watch the Puppy Bowl. They don't catch it live like I do. They catch the reruns at night.
I guess so. I will say things like that, and my wife will tell me, you're different. Like, you are not the normal person. You are an extreme sports fan, but most people are not like that. I think, how are you not?
People have, other hobbies and interests and concerns. God bless the third of you that don't. Without you, we don't have a career.
Yes, thank God for that. It just amazes me. I mean, it is really, and I don't mean to oversell this, but in American culture, I mean, this is the pinnacle of the year, right? Like, it is the most popular sport. It is the thing that most American, of all Americans who like sports, their favorite sport is professional football. It is just kind of the communal thing. There's big parties every year. The biggest concert of the year is the Super Bowl halftime show. Rihanna hasn't even performed in several years. So that's a big thing. I don't know. I guess my overall favorite thing is that, as a super football lifer, like, it ends after Sunday. And, I like talking about the draft, but it's not quite the same as previewing a game.
Yeah.
And also, it's the only thing we have as a country that everyone seems to congregate around, whether you like football or not. I love that.
And what it means for both teams, what's at stake for both teams. For the Eagles, it's the possibility of winning a championship not long after kind of tearing down a team that won a championship. You've got a whole new coach. You've got a largely new roster. You have a new quarterback, but it's proof of concept for the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, and the general manager, Howie Roseman, that you can build something to last, and that Philadelphia and the Eagles, a city and a team that has not historically been known for winning. I mean, they only have won their first ever Super Bowl championship not long ago. Super Bowl 52, was it? It was 2. Yeah. Super Bowl 52 was their first ever championship. And if they can win another one 6 years later, it stamps Philadelphia Eagles football as a franchise that you lose that feeling of, they got one. Like, there's a lot that have one. The Jets have one. The Bears have one. You get out of that company if you can win another one. And what it would mean for Jalen Hurts and what it would mean for head coach Nick Sirianni. But then for the Chiefs, what it would mean for a whole host of guys who, Patrick Mahomes, 5 years into his career as an NFL starting quarterback in another life.
Pitcher it away. Yeah.
Yes. 5 years into his career as an NFL starting quarterback, all of the buts would be ashes in his wake.
Mhm.
There would be nothing you could say. 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl championships, 3 Super Bowl appearances, first team All-Pro, leading the league in passing yards, all of the things you can do as a quarterback, he will have done. And there won't be that lingering, but he only got one, that still hangs around the neck of quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, other guys generationally great who either never got one, Dan Marino, Dan Fouts, guys like that, or who only got one. It feels like a letdown when someone that manifestly gifted only gets the one, even though getting one is hard as hell.
Yes.
There will not be that, but he only got one. And the same goes for Andy Reid. Yeah, he was around at the end a lot, but he only ever got the one. That but the last great but of Andy Reid's legendary coaching career falls away. The but for Travis Kelce and Chris Jones and all the other guys who were around for that first ring probably thought there were going to be a lot more and then missed out on that second and missed out on playing for one last year in painful fashion. It all falls away if the Chiefs win on Sunday. And they will be certified. This will be a team for all time if they win on Sunday. No caveats, no buts. They will be a team that lives in the memory like the Patriots of the 2010s, like the Cowboys of the 90s, like the 49ers of the 80s, the Cowboys and the Steelers of the 70s. They won't be like the Raiders of the 70s, who went to 5 straight conference championship games, but only ever got the one ring. They won't be like those Packers teams of the 90s, 3 straight MVPs for Favre, back-to-back Super Bowls, only got the one. They won't be like that Seahawks team, one of the great defenses of all time, got the ring, didn't get that second one to match it, never got back. All of those things are in play for the Chiefs. They can etch their names in the pantheon of all-time great NFL teams. That's a huge deal. That is playing for a lot. That is a lot on the line for the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday.
And just to further the point, there's something about multiple, just in general, like in sports in general, because we had the same discussion when KU won the national championship. The same discussion. That win for KU made Bill Self untouchable. And not in the NCAA is never going to hit Kansas kind of untouchable. No, like his bona fides forever, you cannot touch them. You can say whatever you want about, Bucknell, Bradley. No. It does not matter. That is untouchable. He has multiple championships. They won all these conference titles, only one ring. No, it's over. Like Hall of Fame, justified as if it wasn't already. That is forever cemented. You cannot touch that. It's the same thing with Andy Reid. But to your point, because you can say, Gary Kubiak has a ring. Oh, big deal. Who else? Don McCafferty has a ring.
Brian Billick has a ring.
Yeah, okay, big whoop. Who cares? Well, no, now you're above that. Now you are in the untouchable space. It doesn't matter how long you coach for. You get that second one, it's forever. College basketball analogy again. Jim Boeheim coached for 100 years. He got one ring. Okay, everybody lucks into one at some point. You get the second one. No, that's not luck. You did it. You got it done. You are on a precipice that you cannot be pulled down from. Same for Mahomes. Man, Trent Dilfer's got a Super Bowl.
Brad Johnson's
got a Super Bowl.
Joe Flacco. That's just the last 20 years.
Yeah. So it makes you untouchable. And then from that point, it's, Brady won 7. Well,
he broke the curve.
Who cares? Who cares at that point?
Brady broke the curve. Don't grade on the Brady curve. He broke the curve for everybody. He's the kid who gets the 100 on the chemistry exam.
I agree with you 100%. It is that part does not matter. What matters is getting to that next point. And if you want the counter argument to how you feel like you haven't accomplished as much if you only get the one, Andy Reid's got one, so does Nick Sirianni. That's what you would hear after the fact. And if you're Andy Reid, you certainly do not want to hear that. By the way, another fun part about Super Bowl week, we got to get to a break here in a second. Great week for betting, for gambling, if you're into that kind of thing. And now in Kansas, it is legal. This is from Max Meyer, who is a content writer for Caesar Sports. He also, by the way, used to write for Sports Illustrated and picked that Penn would beat KU in the 2018 NCAA tournament, just for the record. Anyway, I do not forget. He put this out there. Here's 2 bets that the Caesar Sportsbook has already taken for the Super Bowl. Someone bet $35,000 that there will not be a kick or punt touchdown. That's minus 1,400. So $35,000 would pay $2,500.
Well, I mean, if you've got it to burn,
can't go broke taking a profit, I guess, but that's odd. Somebody else bet $8. I love this. This is my favorite bet. On the Eagles to score exactly 4 points. $8 would pay out 80 grand if it hits.
Man, like on the one hand, sure, you know, take a big swing. Can't win a raffle unless you buy a ticket. On the other hand, like you could like
buy lunch.
Yes, you could have a Big Mac and fries for that money, man. Light it on fire. Yep, 2 safeties, and that's it.
A field goal and then a 1-point safety after a touchdown.
Oh my gosh.
I love that. But again, you can gamble on this stuff now in Kansas, and I will be doing so. Plenty of that over the next week. We've got more Super Bowl to get to over the course of the show. We'll also talk some college basketball. Matt Verderame is going to join us later on this hour. But first, after our first commercial break, we've got the good, the bad, and the ugly here on 580 Sports Talk. Recapping the weekend with a quick round of the good, the bad, and the ugly here on 580 Sports Talk before we get to Matt Verderame, our NFL insider. I really didn't do a whole lot this weekend, like almost nothing at all. So my good, I really needed a win, a gambling win yesterday. I needed to see one go in. So I made a real conservative same game parlay on some Mid-Atlantic or Metro Atlantic Conference basketball.
Oh, dear.
Iona played Ryder yesterday. Everything hit. I just needed Iona to win by 2 points. They're the much better team. I needed 122 points. That's all I needed. That was an extreme alternate total. They had 48 at halftime.
Oh,
and I thought, oh, well, this is fun. I'm going to go for a swim off a short pier coming up here in the near future. They scored 82 points in the second half and pushed it over. So Shout out to you, Rick Pitino. I really, really needed that.
Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. I also had a good day at the window on Saturday, for the record. Under in KU, Iowa State, Oklahoma State covering at home, covering 3.5, beating TCU. So I had a good day at the window, but my good is there was a Sunday with no football on, so I got to just kind of spend the day hanging out with my wife. We ran errands, we hung out, we went to lunch together, we went out to dinner, had Indian food. It was great. It was nice to have a Sunday back. Like I said earlier, when football's done, I'm ready for it to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready for it to be spring, and I'm ready for baseball to be back. Now, as a sports talk host, I am never ready for football to be done. I wish the NFL season were 12 months long. It'd be great. It'd give us content all the time. But it was nice. It was nice to have a lazy Sunday for the first time since August.
Bad for me. KU, yikes. What are you guys doing? I mean, that no energy. Everybody sucked except Jalen Wilson. Jalen Wilson, if not for Zach Edey, would be your National Player of the Year. I'm fully convinced of that.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Edey does exist, though, and he's going to win that honor. But, man, nobody looked good. Zach Clements is hurt now. We already knew Zuby was hurt. All these dudes are banged up. Bobby Pettiford's still not ready to go fully. Ugh. We'll talk more about college hoops coming up in a little bit. But, man, KU Saturday morning, gross.
Yeah, Saturday afternoon wasn't a lot more pleasant for Kansas State. 14-point first-half lead with nothing going right, and then no foul trouble for Keontae Johnson, and it didn't matter in the second half because they got bullied. And, again, we will talk more about this in the 4 o'clock hour, but those are the kinds of games that cost coaches sleep because it wasn't like K-State got out-executed. It wasn't like they lost to a vastly better team. They got out-toughed. And that does not sit well. You could tell it did not sit well with Jerome Tang. That was a bad one to take.
My ugly, I'm actually going to pass on the ugly, and I'm going to make it the good, bad, and the funny this week. I correctly predicted that the Mavericks were going to get Kyrie Irving. And that is going to be a disaster.
Oh, yes.
I legitimately think it is possible that cost them Luka Doncic long term, which is very funny.
My ugly will be the fact that they were leaking conversations about other teams being in trade. So now you have Chris Paul not trusting the Suns because it leaked that the Suns were willing to trade Chris Paul for Kyrie Irving. And you have more drama with the Lakers because it leaked that they were willing to trade Russell Westbrook in a trade for Kyrie. And now you got LeBron tweeting like a 16-year-old girl. Maybe it's me. Maybe it is, man. Like everybody's in their feelings over this. What a weird, like he's not worth it, man. Kyrie Irving is not worth all this.
He is not, and absolutely never will be worth all that. We've got to take another time out. Matt Verderame joins us next from Radio Row here on 580 Sports Talk. our good friend Matt Verderame from Fansided.com for our chat about all things NFL. And of course, this week, it's all things Super Bowl. Finally, Super Bowl week is here. You can, of course, find Matt's great work over at Fansided.com, including the Stacking the Box Column podcast and Arrowhead Addict podcast. And you can find him on Twitter as well, at Matt Verderame. Matt, you're not getting bored of finding the Chiefs in these exotic destinations for the Super Bowl, are you? 3 times in 4 years? You're not getting bored of this team yet, are you?
No, it's worked out. They've gotten me to Miami, which might be my favorite NFL city to visit. And then I didn't go to the one in Tampa because it was COVID. It was basically impossible to make that work. And then now I'm down in Arizona, and it's about 60 degrees warmer here than it is back home in Chicago. So if you just want to keep coming back to the Super Bowl, that's fine by me.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. What makes Miami your favorite NFL city to visit?
I was down there for 8 days, and I'm pretty sure the worst weather we dealt with was 70 degrees and cloudy. So not a drop of humidity. I mean, anything you want to do. I like cigars. I mean, you can go down there and smoke some of the finest cigars you can find. It was beautiful. I mean, everything about it was just easy in, easy out, not a problem. And then, of course, the game day, one of the most beautiful days I've ever seen. 75, sunny, just clear. It was just a great week. It was a great experience.
We had today high 50 degree weather here in Topeka, and I thought, man, it might as well be summertime with how this feels. Miami this time of year sounds just a little bit nicer than that, can't lie. I do want to bring this up as well. We were talking about this right before we went on the air. You're down on Radio Row this week. Plenty to going on there. Obviously, there's players that are active, maybe a little bit more washed up, media from all over the country down there as well. What is it like being on Radio Row? Because I remember as a kid, I've listened to sports talk radio my whole life. I remember as a kid, Super Bowl week, thinking, man, that sounds awesome. There's all these people, all these guys I listen to on the radio and athletes and all that. Is it actually cool, or at this point, is it just, it's part of the gig?
You know what? It can get to where it's part of the gig, but I always force myself to stop and remember what, 5-year-old, 6-year-old Matt Verderame would say if 34-year-old Matt Verderame was, yeah, you know what? Whatever. Right? Like, I mean, this is the Super Bowl. Like, if you care about football at all, it's awesome. Now, it's work for sure, but at the same point, I'm not exactly digging ditches to make a career. I think it's fun. Like we walked in, literally the first person I saw was Ryan Lee just walking around, and I walked by, Pat McAfee and Jayhawks, walk in, and certain teams are here with their setups. And for me now, this is the 5th Super Bowl week I've been at, 4th game, so it's fun too. Now you run into people you see, you run into people you know, you do spots, either from my podcast or theirs. It's fun. It's fun. I think, listen, but at the end of the week, you're certainly tired. It's one of those things that, you need a recharge on Saturday, and then it's game day. So it's crazy. It's a little bit of a circus, but it's a lot of fun.
Looking ahead to the game itself, Chiefs versus Eagles, it feels like we've had so much time to build this game up, and there are so many stories and narratives and all that, but we actually got some news related to the Chiefs on Monday earlier in the day. Mecole Hardman out. He's on injured reserve. He is not going to play in the Super Bowl. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be back, though. It sounds like he'll be able to go at least. Which of those is a bigger deal? And I think, to me at least, Matt, the obvious answer is, Mecole Hardman, because Edwards-Helaire hasn't played for most of the season. But the Chiefs haven't had Mecole Hardman in a meaningful role in several weeks either. So which side of that injury news is the bigger deal?
Not to take away from Mecole Hardman, I don't really think it's a big deal either way for them. I mean, I really don't. Now listen, if Tony and Juju are limited on Sunday, then the answer changes significantly. But, I think the expectation is that they're going to be ready to go in that game. So if that's the case, you have Justin Watson back, you have MVS, you have Sky and Mark. I don't know that it's really going to be limiting. Now, on the flip side, I also don't think getting back Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a big deal. I don't think the Chiefs are all of a sudden going to be trotting him out there for 20 carries. So it's going to be Pacheco. McKinnon's going to be the third down blocking back. I mean, nothing's going to change there. I don't think it's a huge deal. Let's do the Chiefs. It's a little extra depth at back. That's fine. You never know if guy gets hurt, something like that. But I don't think it's something in either part of it that really alters this game.
Our guest is Matt Verderame, covers the National Football League for Fansided, and he joins us from Radio Row in Arizona, site of Super Bowl 57.
Joining us at this time, like he does all the time here on 580 Sports Talk. You can follow Matt's work at fansided.com and check him out on Twitter throughout the Super Bowl week at Matt Verderame. Matt, is there a matchup or an element of this game, and it probably won't be the case by the time we get to Friday, as we've already had a week to pick through this matchup, and we've got another week to kind of pick through it and analyze it. But is there a matchup or an aspect of this game between the Chiefs and the Eagles that you feel like maybe isn't getting enough attention, or you feel like is a bigger deal than it's being made out to be at this stage?
I don't know that this qualifies. I hope it does to answer the question. I think this entire game comes down to Philadelphia's defensive line against the Chiefs' offensive line. Like, I really feel like for Philadelphia to win this game, they have got to decisively win up front in that regard. I don't think they're beating the Chiefs if the Chiefs come out even or especially ahead in the game up front. I don't think the Eagles are going to hold up against Kansas City. And look, I know there are people who would say, hey, the Chiefs have a great defense, so do the Niners. And the Chiefs just tore the Niners apart in their own building for 60 minutes. I don't think that the Eagles' defensive coverages are that hard to figure out. They play a lot of zone. They're pretty static in what they do. They're very good defensively because they just get a ton of pressure. Now, the interesting thing about this game, and we'll see how it plays out, but Mahomes is, in terms of sack percentage, Mahomes and Chiefs ranked second in the league. The only team that got sacked less for 100 dropbacks was Tom Brady and the Bucks. And a lot of that, of course, is Brady gets the ball so quickly. The Eagles are 24th. Like, they give up a lot of sacks and hurt to hold the ball. It's a great line to hold the ball. I think if you're the Eagles, you just have to win this game in the trenches. If they can't do that, and this becomes Mahomes versus Hurts, I have a lot of respect for Hurts. They're not winning. They need to win this game up front, I think specifically with the defensive line.
Offensively for the Eagles, we know they've got a terrific offensive line. They've been able to run the ball effectively, particularly against the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. What makes their running game so good, and what do the Chiefs have to do to at least play the Eagles to a draw? And as you said, make it about Jalen Hurts having to make plays for the Eagles to be able to put points up.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be, look, it's hard to deal with their run game because Hurts will run the ball. So goes in with the numbers again. It's like when you play, now, it's not quite this, but if you play the Ravens, play Buffalo, those have to account for the running quarterback. So your numbers are screwed up. Normal team, run of the mill, Tom Brady, let's use him as the example. Like, you don't have to worry about that. Aaron Rodgers, you're not accounting for him in the run game. There's account for Hurts. He might actually take the ball and run. I think the way they account for this for the Chiefs is to say, look, you're going to put a lot of guys up the line of scrimmage. You're going to play two high safeties, but you're going to creep a lot of guys down. You saw it actually in the title game. Justin Reed played a lot against tight ends, down in the box. They put Cook and Thornhill up high. If you're the Chiefs, you have a choice to make. You can either play single high, and you run the risk of getting beat deep down the field, or you say, playing too high, going to just cover over the top of both of the outside receivers in Brown and Smith, not give up the explosive play, force Philadelphia to run the ball underneath, and say, listen, I'm going to put 7 guys down in the box. If I'm the Chiefs, that's how I would play this game. I would force Philadelphia to go 12-play drive. I don't care who you are. That's hard. All it takes is one bad play, a holding penalty, a drop pass, and now you're behind the sticks, and you can't run it. Now the numbers are in the defense's favor. I think for Kansas City, if it means limiting the deep ball, I think you're okay with giving up some rushing yards in this game. Not 170 or anything like that, but I think a little bit of it. The Eagles had 80 explosive plays this year. They ranked second in the NFL. The only team with more? Chiefs with 80.
With the possibility that the Chiefs may be without as many as 3 wide receivers for Sunday. We already know they won't have McCole Hardman. Darius Toney and Juju Smith-Schuster will be watching their availability and what they're able to do throughout the week. But you get 2 weeks to prepare. You can scheme around maybe not having your full component of healthy wide receivers. How do you expect the Chiefs' passing game to look against the Eagles, and what will they have to do to put the passing game in position to succeed, granting that the best way to make it succeed is just let 15 do what he does?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, again, First of all, I think the expectations, they're going to have some issues, and they're going to have fun. So I don't think the Chiefs are going to be in that position. They'll also have Justin Watson back. Say what you want about Justin Watson. He's a pro. He knows what to do. He's been in the offense. Like, I think other than Harvard, I think they're going to have their guys. But regardless of that, it goes back to what I said at the top. Like, they have to protect up front. They have to. And I think for the Chiefs, look, you're going to have your 5 linemen, okay? And then I think McKinnon's going to see a ton of time in this game. A ton of it. Like, they are going to say, we're going to chip on Reddick, who's going to be against Wiley a lot of this game. We're going to chip on him. We're going to have Kelsey on these shorter routes that he's running. He's going to chip. I think the game has to be, let the guys on the interior do what they do. Brown is going to be the big key. He's going to be the one who's one-on-one, and he's going to have to hold up. If he doesn't hold up, Chiefs have a problem. If he holds up, then I think all of a sudden it becomes a game where it's Mahomes against his own defense. Now, this is a far different defense, and frankly, both teams are far different than they were a year ago. When the Chiefs played the Eagles last year, they did not punt. I mean, this is, look, now, I don't think the Eagles are not going to force a punt in this game. Don't get me wrong, but my point is, when Mahomes saw Gannon's defense a year ago, he destroyed it. And Gannon's defense, Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator, it's been very good this year. When they have faced upper echelon offenses for the last 2 years, they've gotten smoked. Almost every time. If the Chiefs can block, I think they're going to put up a lot of points in this game.
Just a couple more questions for Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, national NFL writer for Fansided.com. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame, and of course find all of his tremendous work over at Fansided.com covering the entire National Football League. On the flip side of that, do you think this Chiefs secondary, which did a pretty good job against a really good receiving group, now Tyler Boyd was hurt, but Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, obviously Jamar Chase back in the AFC Championship game. Do you think they're up to the task to take on another good trio in A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, as well as Dallas Goedert?
Yeah, I think, look, I'm actually going to be writing a piece this week coming out probably Wednesday on the rookie corners and Brian Cook. This is a team that they've been tested. I mean, the Chiefs, I went back and looked. So Trent McDuffie came back from his hamstring injury in week 9. He came back after their bye. They played Tennessee on Sunday night. I don't have the number right in front of me, but the Chiefs defense has played something since then, like 780 snaps. McDuffie's been on the field for all but 8 of them. Like,
wow. Jaylen
Watson played every snap of the game against Cincinnati last Sunday. They are, at this point, I don't like when people say, well, they're not rookies. Well, I mean, they are rookies, but they've seen a lot of action. They've seen a lot of things. They've played big games. They've played some of the best quarterbacks. And I also think, let's be honest, the Chiefs in this game, I almost guarantee you, are going to say, we're going to keep 2 safeties deep. We're going to help over the top. We're going to tell these corners underneath to be really aggressive in their zone of man coverage because they've got help over the top. I think if you're in this game, if you're Spagnuolo, you just say we are not getting beat over the top of the defense. And if we can avoid that, it's going to make it hard. I actually think the Chiefs in this game, they've got size on the outside. Snead is a guy who you can play press with. Williams and Watson, same deal. It's not going to be easy. Brown is great, and Smith is a really good receiver. And Goddard, if he didn't get hurt this year, might have had close to 1,000 yards, maybe even has 1,000 yards. I would not be surprised if they put Justin Reed on Goddard in this game and really tried to take him one-on-one. And I think if you're the Chiefs, that's an endeavor worth pursuing. They did that against Cincinnati at times, and it worked out well. I think they'll mix zone and man, but I think they're going to give those corners help on the outside, especially when it's Watson or Williams. They might try a little more one-on-one with McDuffie or Snead. I think they'll help those rookies on the perimeter.
2 last things for you, Matt. Last one, we got to get your Super Bowl prediction. I know we're still 6 days away from kickoff, and in fact, just over 6 days away from kickoff. Who you got, Chiefs or Eagles?
So I wrote it in my Stack in the Box column today. I'm taking the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to win the game. I think this is a really good football game. Philadelphia is excellent. The Chiefs, I think, are playing their best ball. I think the difference in this game is going to be Steve Spagnuolo and the defense. They're playing really well right now. I mean, they gave Burrow, they put Burrow in hell in that game. They did all kinds of stuff, and Burrow sees them all the time. I mean, Hurts does not. And I think the Bengals are scarier offensively. I know the Eagles are much better up front. Don't get me wrong. But I think the Chiefs win like 31-23. I think it's a game where It's tight. It's close. I think maybe the Chiefs pull away a little bit in the fourth quarter. In the end, I know it's lazy analysis, but it's just genuine how I feel. I think Mahomes will ultimately be the player who separates the game. I think it's close for a while, and then Mahomes makes 2 or 3 plays that you just say, well, what can you do? There's nothing you're doing about it. And I think Spags will take it the rest of the way.
Last thing, non-Super Bowl related, but you were down in Mobile, Alabama this past week for the Senior Bowl. What was the? And we'll talk more about the actual draft process coming up in quite some time. We got plenty of time for that. But what was buzzing the most around NFL news, notes, and drama that week? Was it Aaron Rodgers stuff? The Colts maybe just not having a head coach anymore? What was the buzz number one topic down in Mobile?
It was a couple of things. I think one of them was the Colts, and it's just idea. You talk to a lot of people, and nobody has a real clear picture of what's going on because it's the Colts. But I think there's a thought that a little bit of a power struggle right now with Irsay and Butler. Like, who's running the show? You hear some things where it's like, well, it's Irsay's team, obviously, but he's kind of commandeering the ship. Which, if that's the case, all bets are off. They could do anything. And then with Derek Carr, I think he was another one of the big topics of conversation. He's got a deadline of February 15th where his guaranteed money is going to trigger just $40.4 million. What are the Raiders going to do? Are they going to cut him? Are they going to hold on to him? I had one person in the league say to me, hey, look, if I'm the Raiders, I'd hold on to him. And I would just make it really uncomfortable. And they might do that. But then you run the risk. He has a no trade clause. He could make them have to eat that $40 million this upcoming year by showing up and just saying, I'll show up. That's fine. Pay me. So that is going to be fascinating. I think that's something to watch here. Do the Raiders strike a deal with somebody that, by the way, does not become official until the new league year on March 15th? So you have to hope that nobody backs out. That's something to watch. I think a lot of people feel like if the Raiders move them, the Jets are a team to watch. Would Tennessee be involved? With a team in the NFC South, pick your team in the NFC South. Would they be involved? So there'd be no shortage of suitors. He's seen as the top guy out there for sure.
Matt Verderame covers the whole NFL for Fansided.com. Go check out the Stacking the Box column live now at Fansided and go be on the lookout for all that great Super Bowl content coming out over the course of the rest of the week. You can find Matt on Twitter at Matt Verderame, and he joins us every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk to talk NFL. Matt, enjoy Radio Row, enjoy Super Bowl 57, and we will talk to you for postgame next week.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
Absolutely fantastic stuff, as always, from our good pal Matt Verderame down on Radio Row for Fansided.com. And, of course, we've got plenty more Super Bowl to talk to coming up throughout the show and throughout the week. Tomorrow, our guest to talk all things Super Bowl, our good friend Jordan Foote from Sports Illustrated's Arrowhead Report. He'll join us coming up tomorrow afternoon, so we're looking forward to that. Right now, though, we've got to take a break for the national and local news at the top of the hour. We'll come back, talk a little college hoops to lead off the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk.
Rural living has endless perks, and with Mercury Broadband, high-speed internet service is one of them. With plans starting at $50 a month, Mercury Broadband travels the gravel to deliver internet service you can count on. Your family can keep up with schoolwork, video calls, and online shopping for as low as $50 a month. The simple life just got easier. Visit MercuryBroadband.com to get connected. MercuryBroadband.com.
If you're a farmer or rancher, chances are you've thought of
580 Sports Talk coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you from the 580 studios up on Huntoon Hill. Appreciate you spending some of your afternoon hours with us. We've got plenty more to get to on Super Bowl 57 coming up over the course of the show today, including a little bit later on this hour. We will also get to some college hoops in just a few moments. KU and K-State both lost this weekend. That was unfortunate. KU also plays tonight. We'll preview Big Monday coming up a little bit later on in the show today.
You know what else we're going to do? So we're going to give away some tickets.
That's right.
To Kansas State TCU Tuesday night.
Great
Holding
point.
them in my hands. You can only see them if you're on the video, but I'm holding them in my hands right now. I got 2 tickets for K-State TCU. It's the 8 o'clock tip tomorrow night, and we're going to give them away to one lucky listener this hour.
That's going to be a who's who at the game tomorrow. Dan will be there covering the game.
Yeah.
I will be there as a fan.
Oh, wow.
I will go. My wife and I are going. We went to a game last year. Had a really good time. So try to make the trip out at least once a year to get to go watch my wife's Cats. So we're looking forward to that. Bummed Mike Miles is hurt. That really sucks.
Yeah.
I was really hoping to see Mike Miles, but it'll be fun nonetheless. Better chance for K-State to win. We will happily take that. And then you will get to go as well. We've got a pair of tickets, I believe it is.
Yes, we have 2 tickets,
2
and we will give them away to one lucky listener.
So be on the lookout for that. That's coming up here in just a few minutes. Handful of minutes. And again, we've also got What Is Wrong With You coming up this hour. My hair is bothering me again. It's
I got a cut today. I
noticed.
Yeah.
I walked in, and I didn't mention this to you because I had stuff I was doing this morning, but I look over at Dan's desk, no hat on, hair is all short. I thought, oh, damn.
Yeah,
Busy this weekend.
Got it tightened up this morning. So
this morning?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
this morning. Yeah, bright and early. Got tightened up a little bit. And feeling much better, feeling much lighter. You know, it really can't get to the point where it's starting to like leak out over my ears, for lack of a better way to put it. Like when you got the hair poking out of your side of your cap and it's like over the top of your ear.
Oh yeah.
That's the signal that it's time to visit the local barber.
My sign is that my wife said, wow, your hair is so long already. I thought, okay, well, I guess I'm going to get a haircut soon. Put that one on the schedule. Don't forget, you can be a part of the show today on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. And you can comment on YouTube as well. The comment section wide open to you. Sports on 580 WIBW is the YouTube channel where you can come and watch the show along with listening on the Sports Voice of Kansas and online at 580WIBW.com. Should we start with KU or should we start with K-State today?
We'll go in order the way the games were played. We'll start with KU.
That game sucked. That was not fun. It was an extremely unpleasant viewing experience. And I said this after the game. I put this on Twitter that 2 things can be true and 2 things can both, I think, fairly occur after watching a game like that. I can both rationally say this doesn't mean KU is not a good team. It doesn't mean that KU can't have success in the NCAA tournament. It doesn't mean necessarily that KU has no chance of winning the Big 12 this year. None of those things are necessarily the case just because KU lost in an ugly fashion against Iowa State this weekend. Simultaneously, it was an extremely unpleasant viewing experience at 11 a.m., and it was wildly frustrating to watch the same game. I mean, we've seen this exact same game for KU play out half a dozen times this year, or it sure feels like that at this point. Even a couple of the wins earlier in Big 12 play for KU were frustrating to watch to this same degree. It's Jalen Wilson and the Pips. I mean, that's what this team is on the offensive side of the ball right now. Although I will go full Bill Self here. I was much more upset about the defensive effort in this game from KU than I was the offensive effort. And part of that is because it's just what we've come to expect from this offense. I mean, if other guys are scoring, if you can get double figures from some combination of Adams, Dick, Harris, and McCullough, I mean, 2 of those 3 guys, or even all of them get you 8 or 9 points, you're probably going to be fine because Jalen Wilson's going to get his. The rest of those guys, though, they'll make it happen. They will do enough offensively. You can still win games. When those guys aren't scoring, and they're not defending well, you do not have a chance. There is no chance you are going to beat a team like Iowa State that is going to play hard, that needed a win desperately, because their season was pretty, I mean, they're going to go to the NCAA tournament. They've got stuff to play for, obviously. But in terms of the race for the Big 12 title, their season was over if they lost on Saturday. And credit to them, because they came out way higher intensity level, way higher effort level, more tenacious defensively. They were making shots. All the credit in the world to them. Although, at the same time, I think this is more about KU. And I think that the other team won. I think the concept of wanting it more in sports is the most overrated, overblown topic, period, any sport, any level. I will never get over the night the Royals clinched the 2015 World Series, going back home, turning on the TV, and a local news station anchor said, you could just tell the whole week the Royals wanted it more. I wanted to jump through my television and attack someone. Said, no, they were the better team. It drove me nuts. That is overblown. But I do think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, because I know you got to see it, at least part of the game before heading to Manhattan. They're just that sort of energy that you come to expect from a good KU defensive team. It was not there. It was missing in that game. That's not, they wanted it less. I don't know if they didn't get up for the game. I don't know if they are just exhausted. I'm sure they are, but everyone is. It's the Big 12. That happens. That was disappointing. And I think that is one of the more disappointing things I've seen this year. Not that that means that'll be like that tonight or in future games, in future 11 o'clock tip-offs, whatever. But I really was hoping KU would get up for that game more than they did.
And the real frustrating thing, I think, is that you could tell that was going to be one of those games right away. I mean,
from the jump,
I said it at the under 16 media timeout on Twitter. I tweeted, this already has the feel of a Jalen Wilson is going to have to do this by himself kind of game for Kansas. And that's a good way in this league to lose on the road. It's a good way to lose anywhere, but it's a really good way to lose on the road in this league if you only got one guy show up and play worth a damn. And that game had that feel right from Jump Street, that Jalen Wilson was up for it and nobody else went with him. Jalen Wilson looked back behind him and there were no reinforcements. The cavalry did not come with Jalen Wilson, because when it does, that's a great team. Not a good team, a great one.
Yes.
When Kevin McCullough is contributing on defense and hitting his shot here and there, when Grady Dick is in a rhythm, when DeJuan Harris is contributing offensively, when KJ Adams is running hard to the rim and finding his role in the offense. This is a really, really good, excellent basketball team when all those pieces are fitting together. But too often this year, that has not been the case. And a lot of times it happens on the road. And this is a team, Iowa State, you can't do this in their house, because they have not just won at Hilton Coliseum, they've crushed people at Hilton Coliseum. I think the closest home win they have was a K-State game. A 4-point win, still won by 2 possessions. They're crushing people at Hilton Coliseum. They're a completely different team because, and we have talked about this in other contexts, this is probably true across all the college basketball. And I don't have any numbers, hard data to back this up. This is strictly anecdotal, but I think if you watch enough college basketball, follow it for long enough, like I have, like we have, you notice that home teams get better production from the supporting cast. It's not so star-oriented when you're at home because guys are more comfortable, whether it's completely intangible stuff like they just like sleeping in their own bed, or their friends get to watch them play or something. The girl they're trying to impress is in the student section. I don't know what it is. But your secondary components are always going to play better at home. Iowa State's got a team full of secondary components. Like that's what they've got. They've got one guy I would consider star caliber for the league in Gabe Kalsher. And then they've got a bunch of guys who are just complimentary. Caleb Grill is a shooter. Taman Lipsey is a hustle guy. Jaron Holmes is a second or third scorer
who loves playing against KU.
He loves playing at home.
Yeah,
man.
that's also true.
He was awesome against K-State, and then I watched him against Texas Tech, and you know what basketball was. It looked like they're a great team at home. They have been a great team at home all year, and you can't not match their energy and their intensity playing at home and expect to walk out of there with a win. You just can't do it. And it was evident from the start that was kind of Kansas's mindset, that they didn't have enough steam, enough juice, whatever you want to phrase it as, to keep up with Iowa State playing with the confidence that they play with at home. The thing that really bothered me, I had watched Iowa State give up a 23-point lead in 12 and a half minutes against Texas Tech on the road earlier in the week.
Mhm.
And the reason they did that is because Texas Tech had the unique and groundbreaking strategy idea to just play defense for more than half the court. Like, just have one guy hang back, put a little pressure on the ball handlers, put a little pressure on the freshman Lipsy, put a little pressure on Holmes when he's got the ball in his hands.
Yep.
Just a little bit. KU never tried it. Never tried it. Never threw any sort of trap or aggressive half-court or full-court look. I'm not saying you got to play 40 minutes of hell like Nolan Richardson's Arkansas teams or anything like that, but throw something at Iowa State that makes Iowa State uncomfortable, because they were way too comfortable in that game for 40 minutes.
Do you think that has something to do with the fact that KU's just short on bodies right now?
It could be. Like, Pettiford would be a perfect guy to just go in and for 5 minutes create as much havoc as you can, but you can tell he's not 100%.
Well, and it is being rumored he might not be a go for tonight as well, which we'll get to later on in the show. He, and Self said it after the game, he was out there. He couldn't play, though. He had no explosion whatsoever.
Yeah.
You just don't have bodies right now. And I know that's not an excuse, and it's not an excuse. I mean, you've got to figure out a way to win. KU's had teams that have been banged up before. You got to find a way to win. I mean, they made a run to a Final Four. Now, granted, that was, a couple all-time KU legends on that team in 2018, but I mean, Udoka Azubuike pretty much had to be treated with kid gloves and put in bubble wrap every single second they could afford to for the whole second half of the year and the NCAA tournament run.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to bring up a high schooler just to have depth. They started played Clay Young at the post. He was 6'5" and a walk-on, and they had to make him play starter minutes in the game that year.
Was that the James Sosinski year too? Or?
Yes, that was they brought a backup tight end off the football team because they couldn't have they didn't have practice body.
Yeah.
So that's not an excuse, but I do wonder if that's the reason why KU has been less intense defensively. And it's not been every game. This was just a prime example of it, but it sucked, man. It was not a fun game to watch. And KU made a couple of runs. They fought back a little bit. I had someone tell me, because I said this game's not quite as bad as the TCU loss, but it's way too close. Someone tell me on Twitter, hey, I mean, at least, there were a couple flurries. It looked like they got within 5 at one point. It was, yeah. And I thought, I mean,
that's not the rubric by which we grade Kansas basketball in the Big 12.
No.
We don't give them a attaboy for trying. They're supposed to win this league.
And especially when it felt like things were starting to be put together a little bit more, to then have that effort did not feel great. Did not feel great at all. As for the game you attended at Bramlage Coliseum, the rematch, shockingly, there were not 219 points scored in this game.
Right.
Not even close to that, in fact. K-State had chances and just did not quite have enough juice. I mean, KU didn't have juice in that it just looked like, what are you guys doing? Like, the energy level's not there. I don't know if K-State ran out of steam or what, but they just did not have quite enough. Had the opportunities again, but Texas in the end felt not more battle-tested, but just felt like they had a little bit more wherewithal at the end of the game.
So I said this in the good, bad, the ugly in the 3:00 hour, and I'll expand on it here, that there are losses you can sit with if you're a coach or a player. Like, sometimes it's a make or miss game, and they make and you miss. Sometimes it's just one of those games, right? Sometimes the game where you get out schemed. Sometimes you just run to a better team who's a bad matchup, and they beat you up, and they beat you.
Yep.
And sometimes you just say, you tip your cap, right? You tip your cap and you say, hey, not our night, not our game. And you can sit with those to a certain extent. I think you look back at K-State's other league losses going into Saturday, the loss against TCU on the road, loss at Kansas, and the loss at Iowa State. And you can say, hey, you know what? Tip your cap. We went into a tough environment. They did what they wanted to do better than we did what we wanted to do, and we couldn't pull it together.
Yep.
This loss was the first time all year that I felt like Kansas State got out toughed. Like, Texas brought the fight to K-State in the second half in a way that was unacceptable to Jerome Tang. It pissed Jerome Tang off. How do I know? Because he said so in the post-game press conference. And for a guy who famously doesn't curse, saying he's pissed off is about as close as he's going to get.
Uh-oh.
And so that, I think, should tell you all you need to know about how Jerome Tang felt about that one. I guarantee he didn't sleep a wink Saturday night, knowing that his team had a 14-point lead with 1 second to go in the first half. And then Tyke Green makes a boneheaded play and not coincidentally does not play in the second half. And then in the second half, you're just getting beaten up in the post. Christian Bishop looked like Lou Alcindor, just getting the ball in whatever position he wanted it in and scoring, or getting rebounds and getting second chance opportunities and scoring there. Christian Bishop had scored in double figures all of 3 times in the first half of Big 12 play.
We said that on Friday, didn't we? That he had been having a really disappointing season.
Yes, like they haven't really gotten a lot from him as their 6th man, as a veteran guy that you would expect more from, a 5th-year senior. And yeah, he scored a Big 12 season high 14 points in that game. And they were all in the second half. And it was just Texas coming out with a flurry of blows that Kansas State couldn't match. And now when the Wildcats found their footing, they did eventually take the lead with a minute to play. But then who scores on the other end? Bishop. And what does K-State do on the other end? The other thing that left Jerome Tang probably sleepless on Saturday night, they turned the damn ball over. 19 turnovers in that game. Now, K-State 417, which that's a number you like if you're, defensively. You love forcing 17 turnovers. But there were a lot of those occasions where they would get a turnover and then they try and throw some pass down the court and get it picked off right back, or they get going too fast and they throw it away on the other end. And Jerome Tang had a good answer for this. I actually was the one who asked him the question in the post-game press conference about the turnovers. And he said, look, we're trying to hit too many home runs. We got to hit some singles. We got to be happy with some singles and some doubles.
There's our analogy.
Yes. When it comes to playing in transition, Kansas State has to value those possessions more, because Jerome Tang said it flat out too. We're not good enough for that kind of margin for error. We don't have that margin for error. Nobody in this league has the kind of margin for error where you have 19 empty possessions and just shrug it off, where you can have transition opportunities that you're throwing away and just shrug that off. So I think for Kansas State, obviously they've lost 3 conference games in a row, and that feels alarming. None of them are bad losses in a vacuum. Obviously, nobody's winning at Hilton. Nobody's winning at Allen Fieldhouse. And they lost by 3 to the 10th ranked team in the country. No, these are not bad losses in a vacuum, but the trend here that is concerning is the turnovers. And that Marquise Noel hasn't quite had the same scoring juice that he had to start Big 12 play. So they got to get him going, but they got to get him taking care of the basketball, because your point guard can't have 3 assists and 6 turnovers. That's just that's not functional. That can't happen. So I'm willing to forgive Marquise Noel a bad game. It's his first one of Big 12 play, and assume that he's going to be fine moving forward and that Kansas State will figure out a way to value the basketball. But this is my biggest question for Kansas State. It doesn't have anything to do with the stats or the way that they play or turnovers, anything like that. They've got tangible stuff they got to work on. My concern is with the intangible. K-State's been flying so high this year. Now they're grounded a little bit. This is an inflection point for Jerome Tang. This is an inflection point for these players. How do they respond mentally? They're not the front runners anymore. They've gone from, yeah, it's a great story that everybody's really excited about, to, well, now they're 2 games out of first place in the Big 12. How do they respond to that? How do they pick themselves up off the deck and finish this Big 12 season? I think that's going to say a lot about leadership on this team and leadership on the bench. And I'm convinced that the leadership is good, that there is a lot of leadership. But when you're not front running, it gets harder. And this is now K-State having to respond to having taken a punch and being laid out on the canvas a little bit.
Are you at all worried that this is we were talking about fatigue with KU, the fact that there's just no bench at all and guys are injured and it's Big 12 play and you've been in these battles all season long with a tough schedule. You get to a point where you're sort of worn down and it affects how you can play sometimes on both ends, specifically on the defensive side. We've talked so much about how this is so different for K-State. All these dudes are new. And this is the first. Keontae Johnson played at Florida. Okay, that's different. That's been a good program. Even if they had a couple down years toward the end of his time there, that's been a good program. Cam Carter came from LSU. That's SEC basketball. They've had plenty of success. But this is the first Big 12 grind for these guys. Even for Masood and Noel, Marquise had some good moments last year for sure, but K-State stunk. Like the grind was, can we get through 40 minutes? Like, can we just finish the game night in and night out? It wasn't battling for number one in the conference, battling for seeding in the NCAA tournament. It's different when you've got that expectation. Do you feel at all like maybe there's a little fatigue that has set in with K-State because they had been riding on such a high that they've almost exhausted themselves because of it? And the reason I bring that up is Wednesday on the show, we talked about how it looked at times like KU was winning the hustle plays against K-State. Like there were probably some moments, I brought up the comment from our pal John Kurtz where he said, hey, KU won the play hard chart tonight, which was a very funny comment, but that was true in that game. This is the second game in a row now where, as you put it, K-State got out-toughed in this matchup. Do you think there's a level of fatigue that is set in and not a permanent thing that's going to derail the season? There's still plenty of basketball left to be played. But that's sort of my worry here in that, okay, well, they had an issue with turnovers against TCU, but they bounced back with a couple strong games in a row. Yeah, the rebounding and turnovers were an issue against Iowa State, but they bounced back from that. They whooped Florida. Well, now that's 3 of the last 4 games they've had some issues with this kind of thing. That makes me worry that maybe this team needs a bit of a reset.
And you can get that mid-season. They do need to regroup. I think that's
regroup. Maybe that's the better word.
Yeah, like I don't know necessarily that it's actual physical or mental fatigue, but I do. I think that they've been not coasting, but that's not the word I want to use either. But things have been going really well, and then they got tagged. They got tagged in the chin. And now they're, the standing 8 count, right? They got to shake the cobwebs off and stand up and get back in the middle of the ring. And it doesn't get any easier, but at least they get to play at home with TCU coming to town, and they're catching TCU at as good a time as you can catch TCU. And TCU's been a bit of a front-running team this year, and now they don't have Miles. I can't imagine they'll have Lampkin. He tried to give it a go last Tuesday, and he only got played 8 minutes, and then he didn't suit up Saturday. So I don't know if he plays, how much of an impact he's going to have, but this is a team on paper that K-State should be able to match up really well with. And if they take better care of the basketball, I think long haul, they'll be just fine. But they definitely do need to mentally regroup a little bit and get back on the bike. And gosh, how many sports metaphors can I make? We're
hitting Jerome Tang levels of metaphor.
We're making a lot of metaphors right now, but and mixing them like watercolors. But no, they have to get back on track. And is that another one? Does that count?
No, that one is so commonplace.
Okay.
I would say that doesn't count.
So, but yeah, that's what K-State needs, and it starts honestly with just valuing the basketball. Fewer empty possessions, they can score, and they'll get to a number that will allow them to win games. They just got fewer empty possessions.
Time to give away some K-State tickets.
Yeah, let's do it.
By the way, K-State, the student section, this is not for GA. This is the student section. They're doing a Whopper promotion tomorrow night.
Yeah, first 500 students get free Burger King.
They just tweeted Whopper, 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 Whopper. So whatever money you have, I don't care what the spread is, put it on K-State.
I'm going to get in the student line and see if I can't snag a junior double triple Whopper, Impossible or Bacon Whopper. I rule this day.
Let's go with call number 3.
Caller number 3. In honor of the 3 chicken sandwiches at Burger King.
That is right. Caller number 3, you've got a pair of tickets coming your way to Kansas State basketball versus TCU. Right now, we're going to take a quick break. We've got What Is Wrong With You coming up after this on 580 Sports Talk.
What the hell?
Really quickly, we want to give a shout out to Doug, the winner of our K-State pair of tickets. Shout out to Doug. Enjoy Bramlage Coliseum tomorrow. Should be fun. We'll see you there.
Yeah, you may find, if you find both of us, collect them both like we're Pokemon.
Like toys at the bottom of a cereal box.
Hey, I got on the Jumbotron not once but twice against Texas. It was definitely not about me. It was about the two young ladies who were sitting behind me. They were the Jumbotron fodder. I just happened to be in the vicinity.
Were you on the roof of Bramlage Coliseum again?
No, I was in the last row of the media seating.
Okay, good. I'm glad you got to, get that face on the big screen.
Yeah.
Now that we do the video, I mean, you're used to that now.
Yeah. Everybody has seen my face, knows what I look like, for better and for worse.
We've got two news stories going head-to-head today in What Is Wrong With You to start off this second week of February. Dan, why don't you go first today?
We are going to New York, where a state trooper is facing felony charges accused of writing false traffic tickets.
Dog.
At least 24 of them. He patrolled busy highways in Westchester, where there's no shortage of people speeding and committing other infractions. But investigators allege state trooper Edward Longo tried to boost his productivity by writing phony traffic tickets. The New York State Police Professional Standards Bureau says Longo wrote false tickets for speeding, seatbelt violations, failure to signal the lane change, and other infractions, submitting names that didn't match driver's license numbers or dates of birth.
Oh, my God.
In March of last year, Longo ticketed a driver on the Taconic, 50-year-old Kurt Perez of New Rochelle. One problem with that ticket, Perez had died hours earlier in an auto accident. Perez's ex-wife was shocked to learn of Longo's alleged ticketing scheme, saying, quote, "I think that is a disgrace and a dishonor to his badge."
Yeah, I'll say.
Why would a trooper do this? The court filing indicates Longo's traffic enforcement fell consistently below the troop average, and the tickets were an attempt to avoid a negative performance evaluation.
So why don't I just break the law instead?
So charges have been filed against Edward Longo, felony charges, in fact. Retired New York Police Department Detective Phil Grimaldi, who hosts a podcast called Police Off the Cuff, reviewed the court papers and was surprised at what looks like a blatant scheme. Quote, "There's just so many different ways that this could be uncovered." Which is the kind of thing you would think you know if you're working in law enforcement, but not our guy Eddie Longo. I bet he's no Longo a state trooper.
Boo. Boo. Dislike.
I thought that was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, this dude sucks. This is a bad guy. Very bad person who does not deserve any nice things.
I do wonder if it would have been found out if he hadn't written a ticket for a dead guy.
That's a good point. You might have been able to get away with it.
Might have been able to sneak it, but no, wrote a ticket for somebody who had died.
For my story, we're headed to Des Moines, Iowa, where a 21-year-old man is accused of running naked through a hotel, wielding a toilet plunger and pulling fire alarms. 21-year-old Trevin Hill of Las Vegas was arrested on January 28th and charged with assault while displaying a dangerous weapon. Again, he had a toilet plunger. First-degree criminal mischief and disorderly conduct, according to Polk County online booking records.
So hold up. This dude from Las Vegas went to Des Moines to wild out?
Yes.
Usually that's the reverse.
You'd usually go the other way for that. According to the Des Moines Police Department, Hill approached his victim in the 18th floor stairwell at the Des Moines Marriott downtown with his toilet plunger. According to court documents, the naked man yelled, quote, "I'm going to expletive get you," as he chased the victim. Police said that multiple people saw Hill allegedly pull fire alarms around the hotel. The man continued running on several floors, swinging the plunger until he was subdued by police officers. He was then booked into the county jail, posted bail a day later, and pled not guilty to the charges.
Man, he wasn't on anything? Like,
not as far as we know.
Wow.
Nah, he was just going buck wild.
I'm going to bleeping get you with my plunger.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Like, what's happening here?
I could not tell you.
I love the fact that he is from Las Vegas and he went to Des Moines And what happens in Des Moines did not stay in Des Moines. Oh, he's got to stay in Des Moines.
Well, yeah, he ain't going back home. What are you doing running around with a toilet plunger, man? Why?
The Des Moines Marriott downtown, 18 floors, probably a pretty nice hotel.
We can check it out here. Des Moines.
Yeah, 4.3 stars on Google.
All right.
Right in the heart of scenic downtown Des Moines. It might be the tallest building in Des Moines.
It might be.
18 floors?
At least 18 floors.
Yeah, I think other buildings in Des Moines got 18 floors.
And rooms look nice.
Yeah.
There's like some comedy. Oh, they got a bar?
They got a nice conference center.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Is that for real the tallest building in Des Moines?
We're about to find out. Tallest building in Des Moines, Iowa.
No, they have a 45-story skyscraper, 801 grand. Yeah, shame on me.
Is Des Moines like Oklahoma City where there's one building? When we were driving to Oklahoma City on New Year's Eve, my wife and I, because I had Washburn basketball that weekend, and we're driving in, and she asked, so what's famous about Oklahoma City? And I was like, well, they've got one building. She's like, what do you mean one building? I said, look, you can see there's one tall building. That is what they have there.
So
the Marriott is the third biggest building.
Yes, the third tallest building in Iowa, behind 801 Grand and the Ruan Center, presumably named after former Los Angeles Dodger utility infielder Wilkin Ruan.
Certainly.
Why wouldn't it be?
What a pull.
Yeah, that's not even a guy. Like,
no, that's
Wilkin
not.
Ruan was barely in the bigs.
Who you got?
I gotta go with plunger guy.
What do you like? The fact that you now forever are gonna have that rap, the dangerous weapon rap, and people are gonna say, "Oh my God, were you waving a gun at them?" No, I had a toilet plunger.
Yeah, it was a plunger.
So funny. That is our winner for today. I'll vote with you. I'm gonna go with our naked plunger guy. Oh yeah, by the way, he was naked. Let's not forget that part.
Yeah,
nude, fully nude, running around the hotel. That is our winner today for What Is Wrong With You. We're going to take a time out. We've got more Super Bowl chatter coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan back with you on 580 Sports Talk, 443 on this Monday afternoon. Thanks so much for being with us. If you've missed any of the show up until this point, at the end of every hour, we post the podcast version of the show at our website, 580wibw.com. That is where you can find the hour-by-hour breakdown of the show. Just head to the website, again, 580wibw.com. Move your cursor over the podcast tab, and then when the menu pops up, click on 580 Sports Talk, and that's where you will find the show podcast. Has some NFL coaching news that is breaking here in the last couple of minutes. We'll get to that in our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up here in just a little bit. Interesting thought on the Super Bowl. Two things on the Super Bowl, actually. One more important than the other. One, they have revealed the official shirt that all the Chiefs are going to wear tonight for opening night festivities. Everyone's going to wear the same team-issued gear. I don't know if you've seen this. It's ugly. It is very ugly. Harold Kuntz of, I believe it is Fox 4 in Kansas City, tweeted out a picture of it. It's ugly. I don't know why they're making people wear these. Just let them wear whatever. Who cares? No, I mean, it's the NFL. You got to monetize everything. This is something else you can sell. But yeah, it's very ugly.
Yeah, it's boring.
Yeah.
It's just boring is what it is.
The Chiefs should put Travis Kelce's face, just a big picture of Kelce's face on the shirt, and then Jason Kelce's face should have been on all the Eagles shirts.
That's an idea.
That would be much better. Or like a picture of just their parents or something. Every player on both teams could have worn that. As for the Super Bowl itself, the actual game, the things that matter, you brought up an interesting point today, and I would love to get to it if my computer hadn't frozen and my show notes were working, but they are unfortunately not. But I will allow you then to introduce this topic because you came up with this thought about something we've talked about a lot, specifically when it comes to the Eagles in this matchup.
So something that has been pointed out in various forms over the last week and change as we've gotten started discussing this matchup between the Chiefs and the Eagles are the respective roads traveled to Super Bowl 57 by both the Chiefs and the Eagles as it pertains to their strength of schedule. We talked about, people are going to get mad at me again, strength of schedule as it pertains to both the Chiefs and the Eagles. The Chiefs in their two playoff games had to fight their way past a stubborn Jacksonville team and then beat a Cincinnati team that was playing as well as anybody in the NFL, while the Eagles could virtually sleepwalk to victories over an overqualified Giants team and a 49er team without a quarterback. But, of course, it expands from there. The AFC, generally regarded as a tougher conference than the NFC this year, and the Chiefs had to play all of the AFC's heavy hitters this season. They had to play all three division champions and so on and so forth. So, actually looking at the strength of schedule, the Chiefs played the 16th strongest schedule in the NFL this year. That metric, courtesy of Team Ranking, or Jeff Sagarin, actually. Jeff Sagarin's strength of schedule has the Chiefs 16th in the league.
Okay.
The Eagles, 31st out of 32 teams in the league. Since 2000, only 3 other teams have had a strength of schedule in the 30s and reached the Super Bowl. The Rams in 2000, the greatest show on turf, they played the 31st ranked schedule in the league. The Seahawks in 2005 played the 31st best schedule in the league. The Patriots in 2017, the year they came back and beat the Falcons, they actually played the weakest schedule in the league that year, 32nd out of 32 teams. So those teams who have played that poor of a schedule were 2-1 in Super Bowls. But the differential between the Chiefs and the Eagles in strength of schedule rankings, that is a little bit different. There have been 14 games, or 13 games rather, with a strength of schedule difference of 10 or more spots. So like the Chiefs, 15 spots higher on strength of schedule than the Eagles. 13 Super Bowls with a strength of schedule difference of 10 or more spots. The team that played the better schedule is 10-3 straight up.
Interesting.
The teams who had a weaker schedule and won, the Buccaneers in 2002, they had the 12th ranked strength of schedule and beat the Raiders, who had played the strongest schedule in the entire league that year. The Ravens in 2012 played the 13th toughest schedule, beat the 49ers, who had played the 3rd toughest schedule, and the aforementioned Patriots, who played the weakest schedule in the entire league, and beat the Falcons in the 2016 Super Bowl 51. The Falcons played the 9th toughest schedule. Teams that have had a larger strength of schedule difference and won include last year's Rams, who played the 5th toughest schedule in the league. The Bengals played the 22nd toughest. The Eagles, when they beat the Patriots, had that advantage in 2017. The Broncos had that advantage over the Panthers for Super Bowl 50. And like I said, it goes back the last 13 times this has happened. The team that has played the better schedule is 10-3 straight up. But it may be worth noting that of those 10 winners, and VSiN has the deeper dive here into this, it may be worth noting that of those 10 winners, 9 of them played a top 10 strength of schedule, and 7 of them played a top 5 schedule. The Chiefs don't fit that criteria. They play the 16th toughest schedule this year. So anyway, it's interesting in the sense that if you look at the 13 times where there has been that big of a differential between one team's strength of schedule and the other, that team has won 10 out of the 13 times. But how much does it really matter when you're discussing, like, the Chiefs didn't exactly play like Murderer's Row. It wasn't like they played the number 1 schedule in the league, right? Like they had some pretty weak teams down the stretch. In particular, the AFC West wasn't real good at the back end, and they got to play, down the stretch. They got to play Denver twice. They got to play Houston. They got to play the Raiders down the stretch, So I don't know necessarily what to make of those stats or the strength of schedule metric, but how much stock do you put into the idea that the Chiefs maybe have an advantage by being more battle tested, not just in terms of their regular season schedule, but what they had to go through in the postseason to this point to get to the Super Bowl, as opposed to the Eagles, who have virtually gotten to play 2 blowouts?
It's a good question, and I really, this is the worst sports talk answer I could give. I'm not really sure how I feel about it, because I think in certain instances, there are certain ways in which I can see why it would be a bigger deal. There are also certain ways in which I can see or understand it not being a huge thing. Like in different sports, I think it means a whole lot more when you've got bigger sample sizes. We talk about that with Kansas basketball all the time, right? That they're trying to prepare for the NCAA tournament by playing top 10 teams in November, by playing the Champions Classic and having a tough non-conference tournament, playing the Indianas, the Gonzagas, things like that. But in football, you only get one game. It's a smaller, you have the 19 game sample size that we have to this point, and that is a decent size, but so many different things can go wrong or can change. Injuries are such a major key part of the game and a built-in, baked-in part of the game that can obviously change how things work. Before you gave that 10-3 number, I never would have even considered it. Honestly, I would think, it's not that big of a deal. I think matchup matters more than who you've played already. That is fascinating, though. That is an interesting number. It was 10-3?
10-3 in the last, and 10-2 in the last 12, because the first sample we have in the sample size was the Buccaneers beating the Raiders in the Super Bowl 37.
And that one doesn't even really count, in my opinion, because the Buccaneers had the Raiders' whole playbook.
Yes. Yeah, you can almost toss that one, right?
Yeah, that Super Bowl doesn't even really count. I'm going to lean with who you have played so far does not matter. Because I think in the Super Bowl, with time to prepare, I think the stylistic matchup means more. And the individual player-on-player, scheme-on-scheme matchups means more than having the experience against tougher teams already.
Here are the 2 ways I think it might matter. Let me play devil's advocate then. I'll give you the 2 ways it might matter. Number 1, playoff football is supposed to be a different animal, right? Playoff football is like your antenna are up.
Right.
Everything is heightened. The tension, the pressure to perform, to be as perfect as you can be. And the Chiefs have had to be that for 60 minutes of football each time. They couldn't slip. They couldn't make mistakes. In fact, they forced more mistakes in their wins. And it's the reason why they were able to get past Jacksonville and Cincinnati and win those games. And they felt like high stakes. And the Eagles had a walk in the park against a team that was just happy to be there. And they blew out the Giants. And then a team who literally did not have a quarterback who could function. Like, they haven't been in a game that has felt like real playoff football, and the Chiefs have been. And I think that could be a factor come Sunday. The other factor is this list. Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz, Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, Cooper Rush, Kenny Pickett, Davis Mills, Taylor Heineke, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, Ryan Tannehill / Malik Willis, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, Dak Prescott, Andy Dalton, Davis Webb, Daniel Jones again, Brock Purdy / Daniel Johnson, or Josh Johnson. Those are the quarterbacks the Eagles have played against this year.
Does that mean, and to counter one devil's advocate with the other, does that mean they can't do it or they just haven't yet?
Yeah,
and I think that's the thing that makes me lean that it's not a huge deal.
You're right, but when you talk about their number one ranked pass defense and all the sacks that they've recorded, like if you're any kind of a good defense, that's what you should do against that. But let's see it stress tested. And the Chiefs are going to stress test the Eagles, I think, in a way that they haven't been. That doesn't mean the Chiefs or the Eagles can't pass that test, can't pass it with flying colors. But I do think there's something to the idea that they are going to be stress tested like never before. It's going to be a dandy of a Super Bowl. And this year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party, it's not nachos, it's not chicken wings, it's FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. You can download FanDuel now and use my promo code Lucero, and you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown, that feels like a pretty good bet to make for Super Bowl Sunday, all on a top-rated sportsbook app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you get paid your winning instantly. So join FanDuel today with my promo code Lucero, Lucero, to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57 and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You must be 21 and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, we've got our headlines to get to. We'll also preview Big Monday and get to more on Super Bowl 57. Don't forget, you can let us know your thoughts on anything we're talking about on the show on the Big O Tires text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. You can also comment in the YouTube comment section as well. Sports on 580 WIBW is where you can find us on YouTube. We'll be back for the 5 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk after the national and local news. 1 hour to go on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero with you, leading off the 5 o'clock hour on a Monday afternoon. Appreciate you spending your afternoon hours with us, as always. As we kick off Super Bowl week, Super Bowl 57 coming up in just 6 days. Chiefs versus Eagles, number 1 seed versus number 1 seed. Cannot wait for it. Of course, you'll be able to hear Super Bowl 57 right here on 580 WIBW coming up on Sunday, late afternoon, early evening. It will not be Mitch Holthus on the call. It will be the Westwood One national broadcast of the call. So, downside, no Mitch Holthus on our airwaves. Bright side, instead, you get Kevin Harlan. Sounds like a pretty good consolation to me.
Yes, that is as good a consolation prize as it gets, because Kevin Harlan is awesome.
He's the best. He is the absolute best. So that is coming up, obviously, on Sunday. More Super Bowl chatter coming up a little bit later on in this hour. We'll also preview Big Monday, KU versus Texas. And we will also get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Don't forget, you can chime in on whatever you want to talk about that we've also been talking about on the show today. Coming up on the Big O Tires text line. That's where you can reach us, 785-272-9429. And also, you can reach out to us on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is our YouTube channel where we are live streaming the show. Let's get right to it with our 580 Sports Talk headlines, Dan. Brought to you by Blue Dot of Kansas. You can go visit them online at bluedotkansas.com. First one for me, we actually have a little Chiefs news heading into Super Bowl week. Minor news, it's probably not going to have a major role in what the game is going to look like on offense for the Chiefs, because I think at least for one of these players, this is where we expected them to be. But the Chiefs announced today, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is being activated. That is a positive sign in the running backs room for depth at the very least. But on the downside, Mecole Hardman, he is being put on injured reserve. He is not going to participate in Super Bowl 57. That is obviously a bummer. I think we probably knew this was trending in that direction as of last week. He played a few snaps in the AFC Championship game.
Took an awkward hit on that big third down conversion for the Chiefs in the third quarter. And it's just too bad, because this was a contract year for Mecole Hardman. And if you remember, one of his last games before the injury was that 49ers game where he had the 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And it looked like it might be coming together for Hardman in a way that, like, he was never going to be, like, we're not talking about a guy who's ever going to catch like 100 passes.
No.
But his role, his fit in this offense looked like it was really starting to come together before the injury. And then they had Kadarius Toney. They had made that trade, and Toney kind of filled those shoes. And I think you could kind of read the writing on the wall that Toney is going to be to this offense what Mecole Hardman had been to this offense the last couple of years, once Hardman is allowed to hit free agency once this season is done. And maybe he takes a prove-it one-year deal from the Chiefs, who might be in the market for a wide receiver if Juju doesn't re-sign. I don't know where it goes for him, but it won't go the same way it could have for him had he been healthy, and that is a bummer.
That stinks, but that is your Chiefs injury news update. We'll get participation reports coming up later on in the week. Super Bowl 57 week, finally here. Opening night is tonight, a.k.a. Super Bowl Media Day. So coming up tomorrow, we will have reaction to everything we hear from the Chiefs and from the Eagles tonight down at the, the Walking Stick Center?
Talking
Stick Center. Yeah. Arena, whatever it's called, that the Suns play. That is where they are hosting the events tonight. We will also talk to Jordan Foote of Sports Illustrated coming up tomorrow afternoon as well for our daily Super Bowl interview.
Looking forward to that very much. More NFL news on our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines today. The Denver Broncos officially introduced Sean Payton as their next head coach in a press conference held in the Denver area. Sean Payton had a lot to say. The thing that made the most headlines is saying flat out that Russell Wilson's quarterback guru is not going to be allowed in the team facilities. He was asked directly if Wilson could continue to have his personal quarterback coach, Jake Heaps, as well as other support personnel.
Yes, that Jake Heaps.
Yeah. Russell Wilson's QB guru is that Jake Heaps, as well as other support personnel to work with the quarterback in the building. Payton was clear on where he stood. I'm not too familiar with that, Payton said. That's foreign to me. That's not going to take place. I'm unfamiliar with it. Our staff will be here. Our players will be here. and that's it. Peyton, of course, must think he can get the best out of Russell Wilson, or at least something close to the former Pro Bowl quarterback's best. Certainly, that was not the case in Wilson's first year in Denver when he threw a career-low 16 touchdown passes and was sacked a career-high 55 times as the Broncos staggered to a 5-12 record under Nathaniel Hackett and interim coach Clippy Jerry Rossberg. But Sean Payton has been a success everywhere he has been. So basically just New Orleans has obviously a Super Bowl win on his resume, and Denver fans are fired up. All it took was Peyton saying, quote, "I'm picking the Eagles," talking about the Super Bowl. "We never want anyone in our division to win anything." That got Bronco fans all kinds of turned up. Like, hell yeah, he respects the rivalries. He's not going to back down to the AFC West. And yeah, hey, maybe the Broncos will beat the Chiefs once in the next 7 years, which would be an upgrade from the last 7.
When they never beat
when they
the Chiefs.
did not, when they beat the Chiefs exactly 0 times. So anyway, Sean Payton is the new head coach in Denver. We don't know yet how he will fill out the rest of his coordinator staff. We know who won't be his defensive coordinator. It won't be Ejiro Evero, who had been Denver's defensive coordinator last year under Nathaniel Hackett. Over the weekend, it was announced that Evero will be Frank Reich's defensive coordinator in Carolina. That's a good hire for Frank Reich and his staff there in Carolina. They're putting together a good staff. We also know it won't be Brian Flores. It's been reported earlier today that the former Dolphins head coach will be the new DC in Minnesota. That's a really good hire for the Vikings. It appears now that the Broncos will narrow their search. Sean Desai, who was most recently a defensive assistant with the Seahawks, looks most likely to end up being the next defensive coordinator in Denver.
Can I offer you what might come off as a fairly hot take about Brian Flores?
Sure.
Simultaneously, he clearly got screwed in Miami. Like, it might not have worked out anyway. In fact, it seemed like it probably was trending toward they had hit their ceiling. He got screwed over the way that ended. Like, Jeffrey Ross, the owner, totally messed it. Stephen Ross. I get
Jeffrey
that
Ross is the roast guy.
Yeah, that's right. I always get them back. Always call him the wrong
He's going to be roasting Mr. Peanut on
Super
Bowl Sunday.
So Stephen Ross totally screwed over Brian Flores.
Yes.
100%. Do we know, like, how good of a coordinator Brian Flores is? It's kind of the Bieniemy situation to me, which you want to talk about unfair parallels. But when Flores was in charge of a defense on his own last, he was in New England. He was never officially the defensive coordinator because they do weird things with their titles up there. He was in charge of the defense, but in reality, Bill Belichick was in charge of that defense.
Right.
In Miami, there were personality clashes a lot with Brian Flores, like with his quarterback room, also with literally Miami's best player who he had beef with and then shipped off to Pittsburgh, where he has gone on to do nothing but be a frequent Pro Bowler and All-Pro. I think in theory, it's a good hire for Minnesota, and there's probably some baked-in bias with this, although I think I would have felt this wherever he ended up. I don't know. I don't know if we really, truly know what a Brian Flores defense looks like.
That is fair.
And I think he's a good defensive mind. He wouldn't have been with Bill Belichick as long as he was if he wasn't. Then again, he's also kept Matt Patricia around for a long time. But I just am curious what the Flores defense looks like. Because even when he was in Miami, Josh Boyer was the one who came up with a lot of their weird 3-4 hybrid scheme stuff. So I just am curious what that's going to look like. If it works, Minnesota's going to be one of the top 3 contenders in the NFC for a Super Bowl next year. Well, I don't know.
Nah, the quarterback's still Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
No, never mind on that.
It really is going to be Kirk Cousins again.
Yeah.
How about that?
They signed up for a lot of Kirk.
Yeah, no kidding.
Continuing our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines, we got some more NFL news and notes for you. One of the best wide receivers of his era is calling it a career. A.J. Green announced his retirement today in an Instagram post. The 34-year-old Green played 11 seasons in the NFL, the first 9 for Cincinnati, where he opened his career with 5 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons. He finished his career second in the team's all-time rankings in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns, and had the most 100-yard receiving games in franchise history. Spent his last 2 seasons with the Arizona Cardinals to no great distinction. In fact, you can be forgiven if you forgot A.J. Green was A, still active, and B, playing for the Cardinals, because I know there were times when I certainly did. Since Green entered the league in 2011, he is one of only 5 wide receivers to amass more than 10,000 receiving yards, joining a group that includes his former Cardinal teammate DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown. Green was an All-Pro twice, a Pro Bowler 7 times, finished with 10,514 yards and 70 career touchdowns. It will be an interesting Hall of Fame debate for A.J. Green. For me, he's probably going to fall in that gray area of modern wide receivers that if they do get in, it's going to take a very long time for them to get in. And I think there are certainly some contemporaries that may have a shorter wait than him. I think the debate between him and Julio Jones is kind of a fascinating one. A.J. Green scored more touchdowns than Julio Jones did. But his retirement brings to the end a career of another member of the class of 2011, which might be the best draft in NFL history. You remember the 2011 draft? Here's how it unfolded. First overall pick was Cam Newton, league MVP. Second overall pick, Von Miller, a Super Bowl MVP. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Third overall pick was Marcel Darius out of Alabama, and his career is over, but he was a first-team All-Pro in 2014, went to a couple of Pro Bowls, had a nice career. A.J. Green was the 4th pick in that draft. Patrick Peterson, probably going to the Hall of Fame. He was the 5th pick. Julio Jones was the 6th pick. Aldon Smith was the 7th pick, and he had some off-the-field issues that probably short-circuited what was on track to be a Hall of Fame career. Like, Aldon Smith was unbelievably good. First-team All-Pro in 2012, and I think he would still be racking up big sack numbers had he not had a unfortunate tendency for self-sabotage. Anyway, yeah, Aldon Smith was the 7th pick. Tyron Smith, Dallas Cowboy offensive lineman, the 9th pick. He's probably going to the Hall of Fame. 11th pick was J.J. Watt. He's definitely going to the Hall of Fame. Robert Quinn was the 14th pick, 100-plus career sacks. Mike Pouncey, 15th pick, center, had a great career. Ryan Kerrigan was the 16th pick. Had a pretty great career himself. 24th pick of that draft was Cameron Jordan, who's had a tremendous career and has had it all with the Saints. Cameron Hayward was the 31st pick of the Steelers. He's had, obviously, a terrific career as well. Other guys who were picked later on in the draft and went on to have notable careers, if not necessarily Hall of Fame careers. Randall Cobb was the 64th overall pick, last pick of the second round. Justin Houston, who's had a wonderful career, Chiefs got him 70th in that draft. They got him with the 70th overall pick in the 3rd round. KJ Wright, terrific linebacker for the Seahawks, was a 4th round pick. Richard Sherman, future Hall of Famer from the Seahawks, was a 5th round pick. Pretty good draft class for the Seahawks, all things considered. Future Hall of Famer, All-Pro Jason Kelce, the 191st pick of that draft in the 6th round to the Eagles. A remarkable draft, to be sure. And among guys who weren't drafted that year include Chris Harris, All-Pro cornerback, Doug Baldwin, Pro Bowl wide receiver. So all things considered, I think the 2011 draft might have been the best ever. Certainly the best I can recall. I mean, of the top 11 picks, Watt, Tyron Smith, Patrick Peterson, and Von Miller are nailed down Hall of Famers to me. They are no question about it. Go ahead and start carving their bust for Canton. A.J. Green and Julio Jones, I think it's going to take a while, but I would not be surprised to see one or both of them get in as well. So what are you saying? That Cam Newton is the 7th best player taken in the 2011 draft in the top 11 picks? That's bonkers to think about. And he had to do the heavy lifting for the quarterback class because you notice I started jumping around after the 7th pick. The 7th pick was Aldon Smith. The 9th pick was Tyron Smith. J.J. Watt was the 11th pick. The 8th pick was Jake Locker, and the 10th pick was Blaine Gabbert. And the 12th pick was Christian Ponder. Be careful when you draft quarterbacks. Andy Dalton went 35th overall in that draft. Anyhow, AJ Green, hanging it up. Great career, great player, borderline Hall of Famer. I don't think he'd make the Hall worse if he got in, but it's a logjam for wide receivers. And there are going to be a lot of really, really great ones who, if they ever get in, are going to have to wait a very long time because that's just the nature of that position and indeed the nature of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Some other stories for our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines. By the way, if you are noticing and perhaps bemoaning a lack of Brendan Dworzinski at the moment, he had to step out to conclude work on this evening's 580 Preps Coaches Club coming up at 6 o'clock here on 580 WIBW. Had to catch up with another boys basketball coach in the city. So he stepped out for just a moment, but he will be back with us here shortly. So we keep it moving here on the Blue Dot of Kansas headlines on 580 Sports Talk with the big NBA trade that has just become official after a trade call with the league. Kyrie Irving is a Dallas Maverick. Irving sent from Brooklyn to Dallas. In exchange, the Nets will receive Spencer Dinwiddie, previously had been a Brooklyn Net, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a collection of draft picks that includes, I'm pulling it up right now, a first-round pick in 2029 and second-round picks in 2027 and 2029. 2029, that's a... assuming they changed the draft rules around a little bit, that's a 7th or an 8th grader that just got traded today, if you think about it, potentially. Markieff Morris is also in the deal, going to the Mavericks. Who cares? Sorry to say that about a former Kansas Jayhawk, but that's kind of where Markieff Morris's career and value kind of stand as it stands. Kyrie Irving wanted a trade, and he got it, and now he goes to Dallas, where he will join a team with the most ball-dominant superstar in the entire league in Luka Doncic. We'll see how that goes for everybody involved. I don't know why the Dallas Mavericks have talked themselves into thinking that Kyrie Irving will be the thing that puts them over the top in what is a wide-open Western Conference. But they are hardly the first team to fool themselves to look at the tantalizing ability of Irving to get buckets and overlook not just the truly odious off-court stuff, but also overlook the fact that his teams haven't really won anything unless his teammate was LeBron James. And as much as I like Luka Doncic, as great a player as I think he is not LeBron James. In fact, he's a very different player from LeBron James. LeBron, yeah, great player, scorer, all of those things. Didn't need the ball to be great. Luka Doncic has the ball for 20 of the 24 seconds on the shot clock in every Dallas possession. It's just, I don't know if you've watched Dallas Mavericks basketball. It is grim. It is just Luka dribbling a divot into the hardwood for 18 seconds and then either scoring himself or kicking out to a wide open shooter when the double team inevitably comes, which is not a bad way to, make a living. I mean, they're a 500 team, but Kyrie Irving needs the ball to be great because that's what he does. He's got handles. He's got the ability to drive. He's got the pull-up jumper. He's got all those things. What's he going to do when the ball's not in his hands? How's that going to go? As is put, I think, accurately on the Big O Tires text line from 75, now he's Mark Cuban's problem. And I don't know why Mark Cuban wants that problem. I don't know why any NBA owner wants that problem. I know Kyrie Irving is a great player, has been a great player. Is he still a great player? Is he still worth the hassle? Is he worth the headache? Is he worth the PR hit you take from bringing let's call him what he is, an anti-Semite, putting him on your roster? Hey, Myers Leonard's practically been blackballed for the league, but now you want Kyrie Irving because he gets buckets. Yeah, we'll see how many buckets he's getting beyond the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. I don't think it's going to be a lot. But that trade is done. There was a moment's hesitation earlier today. It sounded like the Nets were trying to find a third team to get involved in the deal, maybe try to add some more value. I actually think the Nets are the winners of this trade, not just because they get rid of Kyrie Irving, but they've got a lot of, Spencer Dinwiddie is not as good at basketball as Kyrie Irving, but he's a pro. He knows how to play. He knows how to win. He knows how to be a good teammate. Dorian Finney-Smith is an excellent defender. Pretty good, 3-and-D guy. The Nets are super deep, and I think they will go deeper in the playoffs than Dallas will with Kyrie Irving. And I won't be surprised if they go much deeper in the playoffs. Anyway, let's get to one more headline here on the blue dot of Kansas headlines. It is back to the NFL, has to do with NFL television. As everyone, I'm sure, is aware, Tom Brady has a lucrative agreement in place with the Fox network to provide analysis on their game broadcasts upon his retirement. $375 million worth of a lucrative agreement, in fact. Well, Brady said today that he won't start his TV career until 2024, telling The Herd with Colin Cowherd on FS1 that he wants to take the time to really learn and be great at what he really wants to do and making sure he doesn't rush into anything. That will allow Greg Olson, who is actually quite good at the whole analysis business, to remain Fox's number one game analyst for the 2023 season, while Tom Brady does whatever it is he's going to do in 2023. My guess is either play or decide he doesn't really want to do TV after all. But I have a feeling that we're never going to see Tom Brady in that chair.
Really?
I don't think we're ever going to see it. Hi, Brendan. You're back.
Yeah. Hello. I don't know, man. That's so much money.
It is a lot of money.
It's like he'll never work for Fox, period, or he will just never do like top game analysis.
No, I don't think he's ever going to do it. I don't. He doesn't need the money.
No,
it is a lot of money, but and I know divorced, but like I don't think he needs the money that bad.
No, he probably doesn't.
I don't know. I think that the fact that he's putting it off a year, that tells me he's not 100% certain that he wants to fly into it. I think he's having some reservations.
I think he would. I don't know that he would be good at it, I think is a big part of it. And not that he can't get better if he's not good at the start. I think he would be far better in a much more protected environment, like being in the studio. Like if you told me, hey, you know what? If Fox told me, I guess, you know what? Actually, we gave Tom Brady all that money because he is now going to sit just to the left of Kurt Menefee because we finally told Terry Bradshaw to retire. I'd say, you know what? That would probably work.
Yeah.
Because he's got a good moderator next to him in Kurt Menefee, who's done it for forever. Howie Long is good at the job. Michael Strahan's good at the job. Whoever if they bring back Jimmy Johnson or whatever.
They need some youth at that table.
The last new guy they added was Michael Strahan almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, Howie Long's done it since they've been on that network. Terry Bradshaw and Jimmy Johnson since they've been on that network.
Terry Bradshaw's last NFL game was 40 years ago, give or take.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Johnson hasn't been on an NFL sideline in about 2 generations now. Like they could use some fresh perspective on that Fox desk, and maybe Tom Brady's the right guy to bring that. A texter from the 785 of the Big O Tires text line posits that Brady needs to use 2023 to try and get Giselle back. And that's what he is doing, and that is very funny.
Maybe
that made me laugh.
The other thing too, if you're Tom Brady, the other point about this, you might not want to be in a position where people don't like you. Like, people don't like Tom Brady because he's great. If he's not great at this, people aren't going to like him because he sucks, which is not something he has ever done in his entire life.
Yeah, he's never been bad at anything. So in some ways, this is actually kind of fits with Tom Brady's whole thing. It's like he's not going to jump into something doesn't think he's going to be good at right away. But maybe he figures out, hey, maybe I won't be good at this.
And people do like Greg Olson.
Yes.
And if you replace the guy who people like with someone they don't like, in the era of the internet and social media and instant reactions to everything, Tom Brady is going to hear about it all the time, constantly, nonstop. And he might not like that.
I know we need a break, but I want to get your perspective because you were out of the room when we talked about AJ Green retiring today. Hall of Famer, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Julio Jones, Hall of Famer, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Who was better?
Oh my God. I hate that you asked me that question.
I didn't answer, so you can cop out too. I
think the better receiver was probably Julio Jones. But if you wanted to ask me for consistency, I would give you AJ Green, because at the end of his career, things kind of fell apart a little bit. His time in Arizona, very forgettable. he had, 7 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons. AJ Green to start his career.
5 straight.
5 straight. That was a record at the time. Justin Jefferson's going to break that. I mean, he was the pinnacle of stability for some really good years in Cincinnati. Not as good as they are now, but some really good years in Cincinnati. Julio got hurt all the time, especially the older he got. But Julio at his best was probably the better player.
Yeah, like if you're making me draft one, like, and I can start all again with them from their rookie year onward, and you take, fortune and circumstance and injury luck out of the equation, and just, hey, who would you want at the beginning of their career? Julio for me, and I don't have to think too hard about it.
I mean, both went over 10,000 yards. Julio got over 13,000. Yeah, I mean, that 2015 season, he had 136 catches, 1,800 plus yards, almost 1,900 yards. I'd probably go Julio, but I think AJ Green's a Hall of Famer. I really do.
Okay.
I'm a big AJ Green fan.
So that's 7 of the top 11 picks or 6 of the top 11 picks in 2011 that you think will go in the Hall of Fame someday. Von Miller,
yes.
Patrick Peterson,
yes.
J.J. Watt,
yes.
Tyron Smith,
yes.
And then both Green and Jones.
I would say yes.
So, like, the 7th best player picked in the top 11 picks of that draft was Cam Newton, who won an MVP.
That is insane. That is truly insane.
It's the greatest draft of all time. Jason Kelce was a 6th-round pick. Richard Sherman was a 5th-round pick.
Put a pin in this for the offseason. Mark this down for the offseason.
We'll expand the discussion.
Yes,
yeah.
Because it is absolutely in the conversation. No doubt about it. We do have to get to a break. We'll come back. We've got more Super Bowl to get to here on 580 Sports Talk. On 580 Sports Talk, Brendan and Dane here with you, 5:34 on a Monday afternoon. A couple of lingering thoughts from headlines just a moment ago. I was taking a look at the 2011 draft because I thought to myself, for being one of the greatest drafts ever, one of the, for sure, if not the greatest ever, the quarterbacks really sucked because I thought,
right?
Cam Newton won an MVP. Mm-hmm. He was great, got to a Super Bowl, all that.
Andy Dalton had a solid career, long career, still ongoing.
Mm-hmm. Colin Kaepernick was in that draft, and whatever you think about everything,
the other stuff,
there were about 3 years where he was unstoppable. You beat the 49ers. You could not beat that guy.
Listen, I have never, as a fan, been more terrified of a player than I was of Colin Kaepernick in the 2013 NFC Championship game.
Agreed.
That man, under pressure, we see Mahomes do it, but Kaepernick left his feet and threw about a 40-yard rope, inches, millimeters over the outstretched hands of the best safety in football, Earl Thomas, and on the money to Anquan Bolden for a touchdown. Look, that dude was a special, special talent. There was some mismanagement, and then there's all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But that was a special, special player at his best.
I would like to put about 9 million yards between me and the rest of that in 2023. But when he was on, man, that's what Greg Roman does. And it works. With mobile quarterbacks, It works. And I will say, I hated watching him throw. I got his delivery. Oh, I hated it. It looked like it was tearing his labrum every time he threw it. But even for the quarterbacks that ended up being a decent year, Terod Taylor is still around.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where it kind of expired.
Yes, because you had Jake Locker and Christian Ponder and
Blaine Gabbert's still around.
Yeah,
he's still the backup now he's a free agent in Tampa, but he had been the backup for several years. He's got a ring.
Christian Ponder married well. Good for him.
Yes, he did.
And Jake Locker didn't really love football.
No, there was a real interesting story about him a couple years ago.
Yeah.
The Athletic, maybe?
I think it was Players Tribune.
No, Players Tribune.
Might have been Players Tribune.
You're right.
Might have been from his perspective. I think baseball was what he loved, but kind of was guided towards football, and you can understand it watching him play in college.
Yeah.
That he was kind of just never really loved the game. And if you don't love it, you're never going to be great at it.
No. He also probably the number one example all time of get while the getting's good, because he stuck around for one more year at Washington. He would have likely been the number one pick the year before in 2010.
Yeah.
Which was the Sam Bradford year.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
2010 was a Sam Bradford draft.
I mean, I remember there was legit discussion. Would you take Bradford or Locker? And if Locker would have gone up 2, not 2 because the Lions picked second, but he would have gone pretty high. How crazy things changed. Locker was out of the league in 5 years.
That long?
It might not have even been that long. Yeah, you're right. It might not have even been that long.
I don't think it was that long. But yeah, that's not regular to get 6 Hall of Famers from the first 11 picks. Yeah. And then Richard Sherman and Travis Kelce are both going. They're nailed on Hall of Famers. So that,
yes,
Hall of Famers that late in the draft. Go back to 2010. Sam Bradford, Ndamukong Suh, Gerald McCoy, Trent Williams, Eric Berry. There's a Hall of Famer there. Trent Williams is going. Ndamukong Suh has a case. But then after that, Russell Okung, Joe Hayden, Rolando McClain went 8th in that draft.
All-time bust.
Oh, my goodness.
Tyson Aluwalu was a top 10 player in that draft.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
That was the draft where Tim Tebow was a first-rounder.
Yeah, it was. Joe Hayden was really good for a long time.
Yeah,
I don't know about a Hall of Famer.
Joe
Hayden
had a good career. Brandon Graham was a good player. Earl Thomas, I think, is going to the Hall of Fame.
Hell, Brandon Graham is still a great player. Well, he's hurt this year, but he's still on the Eagles.
Still productive. Jason Pierre-Paul was 15th pick, still kicking around the league.
Yeah. That draft also had Gronk.
Yeah, that was a Gronk draft.
Has Kelce passed Gronk?
That's hard to be objective about because your boots on the ground with Kelce, right? We see him every game. And
I will say this: he will. He will at some point have undeniable greatness beyond that of Rob Gronkowski, who at the time when he was at his best was maybe more unstoppable than Travis Kelce, but he never played. He was hurt all the time.
Unstoppable in different ways. Gronkowski's unstoppable was you could throw him a ball up along the sideline and it didn't matter how many guys you had covering him, Gronk was going to catch it.
Yeah. And he proved that a few times.
It's the greatest red zone tight end probably in the history of the game. It's either him or Tony Gonzalez. Kelce's greatness and unstoppableness is in his savvy and in his know-how and in his yards after the catch ability and just always being open, always finding the right space to be open, almost a savant in some ways at the tight end position, I would say, in a way where Gronk was just great with the brute force and size and strength. So both guys are great in different ways, and it might just come down to aesthetics as to who you thought had the better career, because numbers-wise, Kelsey's going to play long enough that he'll surpass anything Gronk did.
The other comment I wanted to get to, lingering from headlines from our guy Vance on the YouTube comment, says it would be tough for Tom Brady to turn down that money if he decides not to stick around with Fox. And there is an avenue in which that could happen, but man, what is it, 375 million?
I think it's, like 3 something. It's a lot.
Dude, that is so much money.
Stupid money.
I don't know how you could possibly pass that up. It is so much. I mean, I guess at that point, if you're Fox, you'd have to negotiate an out probably. I mean, the deal is signed, but I don't know. I feel like at that point, you have to put him on TV. I would not want to be in that position. I absolutely would not want to be in that position. Super Bowl wise, and we are going to talk plenty of actual game intrigue coming up over the next few days. Again, Jordan Foote will join us tomorrow. We'll get into more of the X's and O's matchup stuff over the next couple of days as well. We'll make our official Super Bowl prop bets later in the week.
Mm-hmm.
We will. Is there anything that just right off the rip makes you think, I think this is going to be a key part of the game, and thus this is the kind of prop I'm going to be angling for? Whether it's touchdown scorer, which I think might have some real value in this game, although I know you're not a big anytime touchdown guy. Is there anything prop-wise that stands out to you because you think it'll be a key portion of the game?
I think that the Chiefs running backs in the passing game are going to be a factor, because I think it's one way to blunt the effectiveness of pass rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you think about, we need to send 5 guys at Mahomes. We want to rattle him. We want to see what's on that ankle. The Chiefs will get the ball out quick, and I think that the running backs can be vital in that. And there are lots of player props for receptions and longest reception, and will a player have a receiving touchdown? Like Isaiah Pacheco's over-under for receiving yards at FanDuel right now is 15.5. And Jerick McKinnon's 22.5. And they could both go over that in one play. Like one well-designed screen pass.
Yeah.
Because I think as much as particularly the edge guys for the Eagles love to fly up the field, that's a way to take advantage of Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
That's a way to take advantage of Brandon Graham. That's a way to get the linebackers for the Eagles, who are not really the strength of their defense, get them in space against the Chiefs running backs. So I think that would be one place I would be looking, is receiving props for Chiefs running backs. I think they'll be involved, especially if it turns out, and we got a good indication from Matt Verderame earlier when we talked to him in the 3:00 hour that right now kind of the feeling is that it would be a surprise if either Juju Smith-Schuster or Kadarius Toney can't play on Sunday,
which is big.
But if either of them can't, or if one of them is hampered due to injury, I think that makes the running backs even more important in the passing game.
I think that's an interesting point to bring up, because we've noted this over the course of the year. The screen game has become a much smaller part of what the Chiefs do. I mean, we talked back in the days of the Mahomes Report over at our website. That was a weekly thing. That, hey, look at this wild, crazy, chaotic screenplay that ended up working for 38 yards and only ended up not going for a touchdown because Clyde Edwards-Helaire stepped out of bounds. Like, that was what they did all the time. Damian Williams was the king of those. I mean, he was a great screen running back. It's become such a small part of the game, though, or of the Chiefs' week-to-week game plan. So I wonder, you could either view it, A, that's the area where the Chiefs have held things back, but now that they need it, they can use it, or B, well, they've kind of phased that out, and maybe they can't go to that point, even if they should.
I don't remember which ESPN personality it was. It might have been Mina Kimes. I think it was Mina Kimes who was tweeting out GIFs and videos of the Chiefs in the screen game over the weekend. Like, they ran some screens this year. They ran one against the 49ers with Jerick McKinnon that was just like an absolute thing of beauty. And the 49ers are probably the most similar defense, maybe not schematically, but in terms of talent.
In terms of how they've been built from front to back.
And maybe in terms of personnel, like really good edge rushers, cornerbacks who are good players, but a little bit susceptible over the top.
Yeah. Nasty safeties.
And the Chiefs did a lot of screen game stuff against the 49ers. So And it worked really, really well because the interior line, that's where the interior line can really eat for the Chiefs. You get them out in the move, like Trey Smith will ruin you.
Yes. And we've seen it.
Yes.
We've seen it plenty.
We see it take out 2 guys in one play on a screen pass. So yeah, I think there's a chance that the screen game and the running backs in the receiving game, that's something for the Chiefs I think could be a real factor.
Real quick, before we get to another commercial break, I believe you've got a word from FanDuel.
Yeah, we were talking about props and football fans. FanDuel has the perfect way for everyone to get in on the Super Bowl 57 action with a no-sweat same-game parlay. That means everyone gets bonus bets back, and I mean everyone. If your Super Bowl SGP doesn't hit, it doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or already have an account. Same-game parlays let you combine all your favorite bets for a chance at a bigger payday. So you can start building your own or just bet a popular one already made for you in America's #1 sportsbooks. Like you could take the over in receiving yards for Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. He could take one of them to score an anytime touchdown. Build your own. If you're new to FanDuel, you can sign up with promo code Lucero, Lucero, when you download the app. Either way, you get bonus bets back if your no-sweat same-game parlay doesn't hit. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Kansas. 3 or more legs, minimum $1 bet required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Max bonus $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
We'll make our picks for KU versus Texas on Big Monday next on 580 Sports Talk. Just a few minutes left on 580 Sports Talk on this Monday. Don't forget to coming up at the top of the 6 o'clock hour, we've got the 580 Preps High School Boys Basketball Coaches Club. All 8 city coaches kind enough to join me this evening, so we'll get to all those interviews coming up here at the top of the hour. That's the 580 Preps High School Boys Basketball Coaches Club here on 580 WIBW at 6 o'clock. But first, big Monday tonight, KU versus Texas. KU all-time at home on ESPN Big Monday is 46-1. Under Bill Self, they are 35-0. This spread for this game has moved quite a bit in favor of KU. It opened at KU minus 3.5. Some places now have it at 4.5 favoring KU. I'm not sure if that's the case at FanDuel or elsewhere.
Let me look, and I will tell you. Give me one moment to dial that up for you.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up here too. It is...
Who will find it first?
I've got it. Yeah, KU minus 4.5 at FanDuel right now.
4.5.
I took this at 3.5 because I trust that KU at home on Big Monday is going to get it done, and KU has to get it done. KU needs to win this game to have a chance at the Big 12 title. You don't need to win the Big 12 title to have a good year. You don't need it to go far in March, all that. I understand. Fine. If you want a chance to win the best league in America, you have to win this game, because if you go 3 behind Texas with only a few games left, it ain't going to happen. Texas is too good to let that happen. I think KU is going to win. I think it'll be relatively close. I do think the Jayhawks will get it done. Are they going to have more energy than they had against Iowa State? Yes, I do think they do. If they don't, I will put this caveat out there as well. Then I will have my expectations drop severely for what the NCAA tournament will look like. Because if you come out flat 2 games in a row with this much on the line, you're going to be toast. Is someone else going to score? Are other people going to score, especially with a short bench? I think the answer is going to be yes, but most of that is because I'm a blind optimist about KU basketball.
Yeah, again, being at home is such an advantage for any team in college basketball. I would suspect that the Jayhawks will get better performances from the likes of Adams and Harris and Dick and McCullough. I don't think all 4 of those guys are going to kind of just drift their way through 40 minutes like they did in Ames on Saturday. There will be a much greater sense of urgency for Kansas in this game. And it is a short turnaround for both teams, but it's a short one on the road for Texas. And I think that matters a little bit. I think that's kind of what's factoring into the spread. I mean, Texas probably looked at this where they had to play at Kansas State and at KU in a 3-day span, and probably figured they'd be good if they just get one. If they get one of those, they'd be in great shape. Well, they've already gotten one. Do they get fat and happy off of that? I don't know necessarily that they will. They seem like a really mentally tough team. Everything that they've been through this year with the abrupt firing of their head coach, a guy who a lot of them are there because of, and they have still managed to put it together, and they've got a chance. Look, I don't think they're the most talented team in the Big 12. I don't think they're the best team in the Big 12. I don't think they're the team in the Big 12 I'd pick to go the furthest in the NCAA tournament. But they could put the league in a hammerlock if they win tonight. So I expect it's going to be a really solid effort from them. The end of the day, though, if Kansas takes good care of the basketball, doesn't allow Texas to get out and run, I don't think Texas will score enough. I think Kansas will edge them out.
It'll be a fun one coming up tonight. We'll recap the game coming up on tomorrow's show, of course. We will also talk to Michael Swain of Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly. Jordan Foote of Sports Illustrated's Arrowhead Report is going to join us, too. That's all coming up tomorrow from 3 until 6. Right now, though, we've got to wrap up today's show after this with the final word. Sports Talk with a quick final word. Dan, you're up first.
It's gut check time for the Kansas State Wildcats. They've been grounded. They've been tagged in the jaw by a relentlessly tough Big 12 schedule. Now they've got to figure out how to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and get back in the mix in the league. They are more than capable. It starts with valuing the basketball. This is the first big inflection point of Jerome Tang's time as the head coach at K-State, and the first big inflection point for this program. We'll see how they respond. I look forward to seeing how they respond because I think they've got it in them.
I'll stick with college basketball for mine. The Kansas Jayhawks, they play tonight, 8 o'clock tip. You can watch the game on ESPN. You want to talk about gut check time? If you want to win the Big 12, you need to win this game. If you lose this game, you will be 3 behind Texas, which will go into the weekend with that size advantage. You're not coming back from that. There's not enough time left in the Big 12 schedule with this many good teams in all likelihood to come back from that. Because if you're KU, you're probably going to lose another game or two the rest of the way. It cannot be this one. You've got another game with Texas later in the year. You're going to have to win too. You have to win tonight if you want a chance to win the Big 12. Of course, we'll be recapping that game coming up tomorrow with Michael Swain of Fog.net. We'll talk to Jordan Foote tomorrow as well. We'll be with you from 3 until 6 right here on 580 Sports Talk. Don't forget to head to our website, 580WIBW.com, for the hour-by-hour podcast breakdown of the show. Just hover over the podcast tab and then click on 580 Sports Talk when it pops up. And, of course, make sure you go subscribe to us on YouTube as well if you haven't already. Sports on 580 WIBW is our YouTube channel. It's where all of our live streams are. Chiefs recaps. I'll have the live KU post-game recap coming up tonight as well. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk, though. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. The 580 Preps Coaches Club is up next.